Little less than 9 years ago. Little less. 9, or I say a little more. When I first made my debut at 107.5 The Game, it was 12-3.
Okay.
We've come full circle.
Yes, we have.
It was Saturday, July the 5th, that I started 9 years ago in the morning. Do I look better? You've seen me when you see Quinn.
You seem a little more well-rested, a little more energized than maybe at 6 a.m., which makes – was it hard to sleep? What time did your alarm normally go off for the 6 a.m.?
Typically, it would be anywhere between 4:45 and 5.
Was it hard to sleep past that today?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
Literally, I will wake up pretty much every morning sometime between 4:30 and 5:30.
Okay.
This morning was nice to go because I woke up actually this morning at 4:23, and I thought I got to get up in 37 minutes. And I went, no, I don't.
Not today.
Tyler gets me at 5 at noon, man.
Yeah, it's a little better.
You've done it a couple times.
I've done it a couple times. So I don't know if you even remember this. I was hired to be your co-host initially in the mornings almost 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And that lasted about 2 weeks until we had somebody leave and things got shuffled around. And I've been at 9 to 3 ever since.
So, yeah. And then there's some mornings you have to go, almost 6 to 3?
Yeah. Usually I get out at 12 if I do 6 a.m. to fill in for you or Preston or Jen or whatever. But, yeah, well, when you start, and again, I commend you for doing it for 9 years, but when you start having a couple days in a row doing early mornings, like that third day, I feel like it really wears on. If I do it like one day, like last week, I popped in for you on Wednesday, and I was like, oh, today, and then we got the rest of the week off. Like, I'm good. That it gives me more time in the afternoon to do whatever I need to do. It's great. But, yeah, like a week long doing that, that's when it really starts to wear on you.
The one thing that I had to make with this decision was I willing to give up my afternoon shenanigans?
Yeah.
And, yes, for a lot of other reasons, it was a great move, and I'm excited about it. We're going to have a great program. You and I are still kind of collaborating on some things we want to bring to the table, some guests that we want to bring to the table.
Absolutely.
I got one that I think you're going to really like. I don't know if I've told you about him, Dave Bartu. You need to look up. Very analytical.
Okay. I like analytics.
Scores are irrelevant.
Sure.
To him. So, yeah, I love the fact that you love analytics, and we're going to have a lot of fun as we get you ready for football season. Next week, you'll be in Atlanta. Yeah,
SEC Media Days, home game for me. I'll be staying at my parents' house, commuting into Atlanta every single morning and afternoon. So that'll be fun. I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise, but the fact that they don't have to pay for my lodging helps out a lot. So I'm looking forward to it. Apparently, all the Dr. Pepper you can drink, is that correct?
Have you never been?
I've never been.
Yeah. Oh, now that I know this, and that you're not having to fly back, because I think we asked Elijah last year to bring, or maybe it was Jay, I think there was like a strawberries and cream, or there was a different kind. There was some kind of weird kind.
It was one of their new flavors. Last year, they got stuck in the airport or something.
I want to say in Charlotte.
Yeah. Because I found out that morning, because it was the day, because it ended on Thursday, they were coming back on Friday, and Terry calls me at like 8:30. He's like, hey, I'm not going to make it back in time. You're going to have to do 12 to 3 by yourself. I'm like, all right then, cool. Well, get ready for a lot of coach audio.
Well, Tyler will be there for us next week, and we look forward to that. I've been there. I've been to the one in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's fun. It's I'm assuming they're doing it the same at the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's like the way I read it between the Omni and the College Football Hall of Fame, which are right there together. I think they're going to have a lot of fan events at the College Football Hall of Fame and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm excited to see Radio Row and all those kind of things and experience it in person for the first time.
It'll be fun. And next week, it'll get kind of exciting because Shane Beamer and South Carolina, we don't know who they're taking just yet.
No, we should within the next day or so, I feel like.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's this afternoon.
Yeah, I looked up. I think last year they announced it on the 8th. So I think that would have been Monday of this week last year. So, yeah, maybe sometime this afternoon we'll learn who those guys are.
And I'm going to have to adjust a little bit and pay a little bit more attention to breaking news.
Yes,
because
news breaks a lot from 12 to 3. And, you know, I obviously host 9 to 12 and do a lot of things the production side of there as well. And I will miss news that people will, like, tweet at me or text me like, hey, did you see this? I'm like, no, I was busy talking or doing something else. So you have to always be on top of things when you're doing this show because you never know what's going to come up and what's going to happen.
Good news. Being here, I've already had my coffee in the morning.
Good.
We'll be a little bit more prepared for that.
Yes, I've been knocking back a Red Bull for the past couple segments, so I'm wired and ready to go.
How was the 4th? What did you do?
Yeah, so the 4th is my wife's birthday. So
congratulations!
Yeah, that always
pre-built party made
exactly. That's always kind of. I'm never going to forget that. By the way, that's always kind of the focal point of 4th of July. So did some stuff Went to Peach Festival in Gilbert, which is always fun, even though it's 10 billion degrees every single time we go. Went to an event down at the State Museum. Had some dinner around town. Like a good time.
Okay. 70.5. How close did you get to Joey Chestnut?
Ooh, did not touch that, unfortunately. We were just talking about that at the end of the last show, that I'm glad the American hero is back at the helm.
He had, if I understood correctly, 46 in the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
I was actually watching Wimbledon.
Yes.
As it was taking place. I was like, I watched, I don't know, 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds of Joey stuffing.
Not everybody has the stomach for it.
And so I flipped back over to Wimbledon on Friday. And I don't know if the match was so bad. I don't know if it should, but they started talking about it. And one of the guys was like, well, it looks like a blowout there. And he has eaten 46 hot dogs in 5 minutes. And they're like, he's on pace for 100. Can he get there?
Now, everybody slows down. Like the last couple of minutes, you slow down, your stomach starts getting full. But yeah, he was averaging a solid 9 to 10 hot dogs and buns per minute for a few minutes there.
Have you ever participated in any kind of eating contest?
I have. Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh, good one.
Fresh off the line.
Okay.
You want to talk about melting your mouth? They do. The stomach ache afterwards, not worth it. I got 8 down in like 10 minutes.
And 10 minutes.
I regretted it.
Really?
Because it turns into like gum in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Like you think like, okay, first couple, I'm good. And then it just becomes just like this cakey just glob as you're trying to put in more and more. I wouldn't recommend it.
I love food. We'll have plenty of food discussion on this program, just as we did in the morning, especially this time of year when we're trying to sort our way through the month of July. But yeah, I feel like what you're saying is most people would hear you say that and be like, 10? I could do that. Or 8 and 10? Yeah, I got that. But that's the people that eat like 2.
Exactly.
And a little bit slower pace. And then I think I can have a third.
Because typically if you're going to eat a donut, you're probably enjoying it over the course of, 5, maybe 10 minutes with some coffee or whatever. But when you're trying to stuff as many as you can in your mouth in 10 minutes, that's a little bit different. So I couldn't eat donuts for a while after that, by the way.
Like what's a while? Like the rest of the day? A week?
Several years.
Oh.
I went several years without eating a donut after that competition.
Okay. Well.
I finally come back around, but it took some time.
On the upside, we're doing an afternoon show. Less donuts on this program.
That's true.
Otherwise, we might have had a serious issue there. But we'll survive that. We got a lot to get to today. Coming off of a weekend, we mentioned the Joey Chestnut thing. That's actually pretty funny. But we'll talk a lot. A couple things popping up. Tyler pointed out to me, I'd missed this yesterday, but Tyler pointed out to me, one Braves analyst.
MLB Network analyst.
MLB Network analyst. Maybe the Braves should trade Ronald Acuna Jr. We're going to get into that a little bit.
It's going to take some convincing.
As a person who will be at least 2 Braves games over the next 3 weeks, I'm going on Friday to see the Braves and the Yankees, so that'll be the 18th. That'll be the day after.
Yep.
You come back, and then on the 23rd, a noon game. I'm actually off the 23rd for those of you keeping track. Apparently, it's a big thing to keep track of my days I take off.
Well, it's the running joke. Whenever I fill up in for you, I'm like, yeah, that's Bill's 15th day off this year so far. And everybody's like, I'd love to have a job where I get as much as vacation time as him.
There's going to be a few more. For those of you
well, we got to get it out of the way before football gets here.
Right, yeah.
Once football season starts, we're locked in. Like, we can't go anywhere until basically Christmas.
That's
We're in trouble.
It'll be a bad season. And we'll talk a lot about that as we get you set up for today. Not this season, but next season. We're expecting a whole new group of South Carolina enrollees, and some big names are set to make their commitments really over the next 7 days, whether it's Smoke, or some people call him Samari Matthews, whether it's Tamarion Watkins, who is actually on the 14th. That's 7 days away. There's plenty of other players that are set to make some big decisions. South Carolina did get a commitment last week from a big defensive lineman. We'll talk about that a little bit this morning.
Literally a big defensive lineman.
And I like Preston's take on that back then when he talked about nobody that comes in the size of Noah Clark. Listed 6'3", 6'4", 330. Nobody comes in good shape out of high school.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably a little flabby 350 at this point in time that you get with the strength staff, the nutrition staff. They turn that into muscle.
Well, now we don't know, because and I did recruiting back in the day.
Nobody's has to hold you to the fire and make you be honest about what people weigh in their height when it comes to listing them on the South Carolina website. But when you get to the big leagues, they do have to actually be official with those kind of things. So, yeah, you can fudge the numbers a little bit.
And I'll give you a story real quick of how these things kind of go when I was doing recruiting. And there was an offensive lineman, I believe from Chester. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he went to Clemson. He was a South Carolina Clemson battle. He went to Clemson, big offensive lineman. And I was at Irmo High School for like a camp kind of day, and he had to weigh in, and he weighs in at like 6'3", 335, 340. He was big. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
And I believed it too.
Sure.
So afterwards, he gets off the scale, comes over, and I said, well, what were you weighed at? What were you listed at? And he goes, whatever he said. It was between 335 and 340. I'll say just 337. He goes, but that's because my chain was in my pocket.
How heavy was that chain?
I don't know. I was like, that's a good excuse. That's a good excuse.
I guess so.
But we'll get into some recruiting talk this afternoon. Try and keep track today. How many times do I say welcome to the early game or welcome back to the early game?
Listen, as somebody that hosts 4 shows, you're going to mess it up. It's okay. We'll get a jar out here on the table of messing up show titles.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Yeah, you've been through that too. So we'll get into all of that. Also, we got a segment coming up this morning with there you go. There's number 1.
There you go.
This afternoon. Yeah. Heads or tails, where Tyler will get into a lot of things he observed from the weekend. Hopefully a very good birthday gift to the significant other as well, correct?
Well, I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Excellent work. Excellent work. And yes, you make a great point. You can never forget the birthday when it's on July the 4th. 803-404-6100. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. We got Ed Bird manning the producing today. We'll acknowledge him a few times, and we'll have a really good time. I hope you're all excited like we are. Look forward to working with Tyler. Look forward to speaking to y'all from 12 to 3 every day, except the days I take a vacation on, and we'll get it going when we come back. You're listening to the early 2. That's 2.
There it is.
You're listening to the Halftime Show. 12:17 on your Monday afternoon. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. I'm going to call you Captain Ed Bird. Sounds a little bit more formal, a little more official for that. Also take a little pressure off of me pronouncing everything correctly for a day or two. You're listening to the halftime show here on 107.5 The Game. So recruiting week, Tyler, now again, you and I, it's not like we're meeting each other for the first time.
Sure.
But giving you some background, recruiting was how I got into this entire industry.
Yep.
It started with basketball recruiting and worked my way toward football recruiting, and then that led me just a little about 15 years ago into this business. So I tend to geek out in recruiting.
Yeah.
I also tend to realize recruiting is no longer what it used to be.
Sure.
You miss on a guy, South Carolina may have missed on Julian Walker, defensive end from just down the road at Dutch Fork. You know what? There's a transfer portal. Mm-hmm. Let him go get a year of experience at Michigan, get in the weight program, and then if he has a good year, maybe up that NIL content.
Yeah, it's not quite the end-all, be-all that it used to be. I'm interested to see, now that we're in this revenue-sharing era, how much more importance gets put back on it, where the idea is that maybe there won't be as much player movement going on because everybody's going to get some kind of flat salary with every school that they go to. And again, you're seeing teams like Georgia and Alabama continue to knock it out of the park with high school recruiting, so still very important. And look, Shane Beamer's somebody that has not shied away from talking about the importance of it in his time here, even with the transfer portal going crazy and all those kind of things. And you look at this 2026 class, and it's been very solid so far, with plenty of room to continue to add to it before early signing day gets here in December. And the month of June, very strong one. I believe 5 total commitments during that time.
Really good month, but you know this, people tend to focus more on the negative than they do on the positive, right?
Sure.
So it's, oh my goodness, we lost Julian Walker.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, we lost P.J. Dean. Those were the two big ones from last week. It was Noah Clark, and we'll start with him. Noah Clark, the big 6'4", 330-pound defensive lineman. Again, he's already committed back on July the 2nd. That was a big pickup for South Carolina, who needs, I feel like, Tyler, and you kind of tell me what you agree with. It was last year that we really learned the importance, not just of having high-quality defensive tackles, not edges, tackles, but it was last year when we saw them being able to rotate almost a 3 deep, 6 guys at defensive tackle, that showed you what depth means for the defensive tackle position during one season. Yeah,
I think you would struggle to find any team last year with more depth in the interior of your defensive line than what South Carolina had last year, and we expect all those guys to hopefully have good careers at the next level, but replacing that is obviously hard. And yes, there's anticipation that guys like Goodwine and Brian Lindley are going to kind of step up into those roles, but there's no denying you don't have the depth of experience that you had a year ago, and it's a room that I think both Goodwine and Baird are both in their last year of eligibility as well. You're going to have to continue to build on these next couple of years to hopefully get yourself back to that point, maybe in a couple of years from now, that you had last year with so many guys that had a ton of experience that you could rotate in and out and, keep fresh bodies in. And, again, what they've done so far with Harris and now Clark committing in the past couple weeks is, falling in line with hopefully doing that.
Yeah, to me, again, you mentioned that Aiden Harris, the 4-star defensive lineman, Noah Clark. South Carolina will probably have to turn another direction to find another defensive tackle. There are a few guys out there, but probably have to look another direction after missing on P.J. Dean last week. We'll see if they're able to come up with a guy and maybe plug him in. And this is where I do think with recruiting, it's important that you don't always land the elite 4 or 5-star prospects. You get a 3-star. You have to believe in your coach.
Yeah.
As I was covering South Carolina with the Big Spur and being with that group, I got to watch up close and personal Brad Lawing. Mm-hmm. It was like hanging out with Joe Pesci to an extent. You did learn a way to put words together, words that we cannot use on the radio, to get your point across.
Right.
Big part of my life. Had to kind of shove that one out of my memory after covering spring practices for a few years. I also remember how Brad Lawing really used Melvin Ingram as an example sometimes. I'll never forget the time, Tyler, that he had one of the GAs or whatever go get a seat.
Uh-huh.
Asked Melvin if he was thirsty. Had him get 2 cups of Gatorade from Melvin. He said, "Sit, Melvin, sit. You're not going hard enough. I'm worried that you might be tired." And then had the rest of the defensive linemen do up-downs until he felt Melvin was tired. And there's no other way. I mean, look, I don't know if that's
sure.
Oh, what is that? If that's bullying, I don't know what that is, but it worked.
Yeah, I imagine that didn't go over too well in the locker room after the fact.
So you got to build depth. Noah Clark was a big part of that, and we'll kind of see what happens for South Carolina's sake. But I'll finish this. You got to go get maybe those lower-rated guys that you believe in your coach.
Yeah.
That lower-rated guy is going to be like, all right, I'm going to stick around for 2 or 3 years to see what I become.
Yeah, and look, in the history of the South Carolina program, especially in the Beamer era, you've seen plenty of guys that have come in as lower-end type of recruits that are now playing in the NFL. I think wasn't Leggett, was he a 3-star when he came in here? So again, not a ton of fanfare. Marcellus Dial as well a couple of years ago that, you get in here, you develop them and get to that point where they can play at the next level. And that's what it's all about. And again, I think Shane Beamer has shown that reputation here in a short time. They can do a lot, maybe with not the highest in town. And look, they've signed some 5-stars. They've signed some high-end 4-stars as well. But the difference is what can you do with those lower-end guys that most people aren't going to throw a parade for when they commit here in time. Maybe it's not in year 1 or year 2, but by year 3 or 4, if they stick around that long, where can they be and what can they mean to your program by then?
Yeah, I mean, you go back and you look at the Steve Spurrier era, and DJ Swearinger was not a 4-star guy. And I remember that very pointedly because DJ Swearinger cussed me out in a text message when I was trying to see if he was switching from from Tennessee to South Carolina.
Okay.
But a lot of y'all remember Devin Taylor was not it was South Carolina, Virginia Tech for him. It was South Carolina and Tennessee for DJ Swearinger. Jimmy Legree ended up being a really good defensive back. You can go with, Byron McKnight. By the end of his tenure, by the end of his career, he had developed into a high-quality player. Byron Jerido was another guy that came in that wasn't highly thought of and nobody was jumping up and down for. You think about Nick Jones at wide receiver, Brandon Wilds from right here in town. So, yeah, you got to have those guys, but you do have to land the elite prospects too. And South Carolina will be in the mix on coming up on now I'm blanking on my exact days on Friday.
Yep.
July 11th. I knew it was July 11th. I didn't know July 11th was Friday. But Samari Smoke Matthews. And it sounds like Texas and a big NIL deal.
Yep.
Or South Carolina and staying close to family.
And I'll go back to what Preston brought up on y'all's show last week when talking about P.J. Dean, or maybe the week before when P.J. Dean went to Georgia. It's like these are the battles you have to start winning on a regular basis. And look, they've won some recruiting battles against some really good schools, but when you start having guys that decide to come to you over at Texas, decide to come to you over at Georgia, over in Ohio State at a regular clip, I think that's when you kind of enter that next level in the recruiting landscape of, man, look at what Coach Beamer is doing, pulling these guys. And you've got some examples of that. Like, again, it seemed like Nick Harper was a guarantee to go to Oregon until the 11th hour when, for whatever reason, South Carolina convinced him to come here, NIL or the track situation, whatever it may be. So you have a track record of doing that. You just want to see it done on a very consistent basis because that's when, again, I think you ascend to that next level when it comes to recruiting.
So you're right. You got to win some of those. South Carolina's won Nick Harper. They've won Dylan Stewart. They have won some elite prospects. You have to continue to do it. Samari Matthews is a big, big part of that, a top 60 prospect in the country. And again, either Texas or South Carolina likely for him. Also, on Friday, offensive tackle J.B. Shabazz. And again, this comes down to South Carolina, Tennessee, or Ohio State. And this is a guy that's, again, very highly thought of. You can hear that from those three names. One thing South Carolina's done an incredible job of over the last 3 or 4 years is landing offensive linemen, being able to build what we assume is going to be a big, tough, physical offensive line this year. J.B. Shabazz, 6'7", 300 pounds.
Yeah, that's what we wanted out of an offensive lineman. That's the ideal build.
So he will also make his announcement on Friday. A lot of projections having him going to Tennessee. Coming up on the 14th, a week from today. This is another big one, and I will go back to my recruiting contacts here on this, Tyler. Tamarian Watkins, most feel might be the best actual player in the state of South Carolina.
Sure. Safety
out of Northwestern. South Carolina, again, going head-to-head with another big-name team, another high-powered NIL team in Texas A&M.
Yes. Again, you're going to be competing with the big dogs there. See that, Georgia's in the mix, Miami in the mix there as well. So if you can win that, that's significant recruiting victory, again, for somebody that's thought of as one of the best overall players in the state and can obviously add to what's been a very good secondary these past handful of years for South Carolina and, looking for a good future for that position group.
And don't go getting all giddy, folks, but if he compares to anyone, it was some dude named Eamon Worry, who it took me 3 years to learn.
Again, was also a 3-star coming out of high school that was darn near a first-round pick.
Yep, and 6'3.5", about 200 pounds, not quite as physically big in terms of weight as Eamon Mori was, but again, the measurables very similar, 6'3.5", 199 pounds, and he, again, will make an announcement next Monday. And then finally, I said 7 days from out, but we'll take it all the way out to 11. Maybe South Carolina gets their quarterback of the class back in Landon Duckworth. South Carolina, and I don't know who else, but a four-star, almost five-star quarterback, the number 6 quarterback in the country. It was considered Auburn to be kind of the biggest competitor, but Auburn recently flipped a quarterback from Penn State. They've also got Deuce McKnight, who I really loved in the last class. All signs point to South Carolina to land their quarterback.
Yeah, I think Wilt Fong had one of the Fong bombs recently for Landon Duckworth committing back to South Carolina. And his whole thing was an odd process because he committed so early. And again, there was a lot of time to continue to talk to other schools and go on visits. That it made sense why he would open his commitment back up. But South Carolina's never really strayed that far from him. And good to see that they're still in the top 2 for his decision coming up next week. And again, you would run into a very good problem next year. It's like, okay, between Air Noland, Cutter Woods, and Landon Duckworth, who's going to win the quarterback position, assuming Lenore Sellers goes on to the NFL, as opposed to in years past where you're like, okay, well, I guess this guy's going to be the quarterback because we don't really have many options. So you're on track there, and we'll see if Landon Duckworth decides to commit to South Carolina coming up next week.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in via the text line or the phone lines this morning. Reminder, if you missed that segment, you're just tuning in, make sure you check out the Game audio on demand podcasting, 1075thegame.com, and our video on demand podcasting at the Game TV Radio. And of course, that's sponsored by Modern Exterminating. We'll come back, get into a little more discussion this afternoon here on we got your stuff.
Yes.
I'm learning. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there.
It's all right. We're all learning here. Yes. First edition of Heads or Tails up next.
803-404-6100 is the early game. 7:34 as we roll along. First show of the halftime show.
New era.
New era. You know, Tyler Head, Captain Ed Bird, and me, Bill Gunner. Transitioning. Feel like I'm much more awake, much happier today.
Yeah. When Dave gets back in here at the end of the week, you can learn all about Dave's complicated life. As we like to let Dave tell stories because his stories are roller coasters. They'll take you to some weird places.
Prepare. Maybe we'll have to create a segment maybe on one day that I used to play called Stump the Dave. You probably have learned, but Dave, there probably is nobody in the state with better music knowledge. Guitars that got played.
Yep.
Long time ago when I did 3 to 6, I had to fill in 3 to 6. Occasionally we would play a little game of Stump the Dave.
Yeah, I think that can make a return.
Very rarely did Dave get stumped, and so when he returns later in the week, we will get into that. And again, a reminder, next week we will have all of our shows, I believe, out at. Can you feel? You probably have a better idea of what's going on around here at time. I've been off for a couple days.
Yeah, we'll all be out there for media days. At least one of us for each show from 6A to 6B. So look forward to that. And again, whatever debauchery will ensue in Atlanta.
Good luck. It's the last time I was out there. Yes, it was quite the scene, quite the event with Jay Phillips, who's quite dangerous when you take him on location.
I can't wait to see it in person. Well, I've never seen Jay away from the studio.
Yep, totally different person. By the way, for those wanting to just keep up with this, or if you have younger kids like I do, I believe 36 minutes ago, you were able to start downloading the new EA Sports College Football game and play the early release. I believe.
Early access. Yep. I think I'm going to hold off on getting this year's a little bit. I'm still working through a dynasty from last year.
Totally understand.
I did just lose the national championship to Clemson, so I'm trying to avenge myself on that one. And if I do eventually win that, then maybe I'll move on to 26.
Okay. Yeah, well, during next break, I'll have to text Austin and see if he, after I purchased it yesterday, and he has been on countdown, I've been getting a text about every hour. 803-404-6100. By the way, if you're keeping track, 2 times now I have said the early game in heading to break. So if you're collecting money or taking a shot every time that gets said, you're either really winning or you're heading toward an unfortunate afternoon, depending on how you feel.
Our listeners for a while were betting on how Leak Teru would be for the show every single day.
Okay.
So maybe you messing up the show title can be the new bet that they can place.
Only for a few days. I'll get it right. One of the new segments I'm excited about, I think Tyler is as well, is Heads or Tails. Explain a little bit before we get into this.
Yeah, so this is kind of in the spirit of what Preston does on Monday mornings with Thorns, Buds, and Roses. My observations of the weekend will consider heads to be positives and tails to be negatives. I have 3 for each for today, and we'll workshop this, maybe get some music for it next time.
We're definitely going to get some music.
Kind of build this out, but it's a working idea for now. So I have a couple things that I consider to be heads from the weekend. Joey Chestnut being back, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, an American hero, claiming his 17th mustard yellow belt on the 4th of July by winning the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest. By the way, he's 1 championship shy of the Celtics, who have 18 crowns in the NBA right now. I think he should be talked about in the same legacy as all those amazing teams. So great start to the weekend there for Joey Chestnut. The All-American Rejects had a concert in the midst of a Savannah Bananas game at Fenway Park. Did you see this?
I did not. I will admit I did actually watch a little bit of the Savannah Bananas in that contest. I made it through about 15 minutes. I was like, nope, turn on the channel.
So they played the Firefighters at Fenway Park. And again, when you watch a Bananas game or go to a game, there's going to be some kind of celebrity or athlete that shows up at some point playing on the field or doing something with them. And the All-American Rejects, I don't know if your mileage on AR as a band or anything like that, but they're a late 2000s kind of alternative rock band. And they've been kind of out of the spotlight here as of late, but they showed up in full banana gear and performed kind of like a medley for about 4 to 5 minutes in the midst of the game, which I thought was really neat.
All right.
And again, I have tons of their songs in my playlist, so for somebody like me, that was exciting.
Okay.
The crowd sang along. It was great. I loved it.
All right.
Final head is kind of a smaller one, but yesterday the Braves played the Orioles at 11:35 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
This game was on the Roku channel.
Also
Roku leadoff, which they do on Sundays now. I like it. Early game, something to watch kind of late morning, early afternoon before the other events get going at 1 and 4 and all those kind of things. Also, it's a game that everybody can watch. Bill, you know this. The blackout restrictions and the contract negotiations with now FanDuel Sports Network and TV providers sucks for a lot of people because there's a lot of people who are locally that can't watch the Braves, despite the fact they're the closest team in proximity because of whatever TV provider they have. here's a chance for people to actually watch these games for free without any strings attached. And I'm good with that.
All right. I tell you what, let me go through these.
All right.
Yeah, at some point, don't we have to tell Joey, because he's not winning. He's dominating.
He's racing himself.
Basically. Like, he's essentially showing up to play against, all right, last year's number was, okay, this year's number, I want to beat it by 1. Like,
sure.
At some point, do we have to say, sir, we appreciate you coming as a celebrity host?
Well, considering the fact that they lost 1 million viewers last year when he was out, I don't think they're going to tell him to leave anytime soon.
Yeah, I saw that too. I don't know what we're watching here, because, like, he just goes in and you're like, yeah. He's won. He's won. So what did 1 million viewers last year, like, they just didn't know who was, they didn't like the excitement of knowing who was going to win?
It's 10 minutes of watching greatness. That's all you have to do. Just dedicate 10 minutes to it every single year. We don't know what he does the other 364 days, and it doesn't matter as long as he eats hot dogs on the 4th of July.
I believe he's some kind of engineer.
I think you're right. I think I did read that somewhere.
He's doing well in his other business. He's doing well,
but he also makes a lot of money eating too.
Yeah. All right. So that's him.
Yep.
By the way, Mustard Belt was not aware of that, and that'll have to tie that back in with our wrestling segments that we'll be having later on. The Savannah. You into the Bananas? Are you into this thing?
Like, I've never sat down and watched a full game. I like to see the clips they put on social media. I'm not one of these people that I don't like when people are like huge against it. Right? Like, it's fun. It's entertainment. It's for kids. Like, why does it bother you that much? You know what I mean? Like,
there's a lot of other channels.
Exactly.
Just flip to the other one.
Exactly. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't go to games. Like, it's not a big deal. People get way too upset about these kind of things. That's my take on it, at least.
And then the final one. So it was. I didn't take the time yesterday to learn this, but it was on Peacock or it was on Apple.
I think it was just on the Roku channel. So they have different packages. You have games that are on Apple TV. That's the only way you can watch them.
Right.
Peacock does like an early Sunday game too, but yesterday's was on Roku.
Yeah.
They do like the Roku channel lead up, which again, that's free for everyone. You don't have to have any subscription of any sort to watch this game, which again, I feel like Major League Baseball should embrace more of that, because the ability to watch your local team is getting harder and harder, I feel like.
Tails
from the weekend, and we'll dive into this more a little bit later with maybe an idea of when this could be coming down, but it's July, and we still don't know if Rashul Faison is going to be eligible for the season or not, which obviously sucks. Tale number 2, people that shoot fireworks off after the 4th of July. You have one day in the summer. Get it out of your system. I don't need it on the 5th or 6th of July. I heard fireworks as I was going to bed last night. That bugs me. Save them for New Year's. What are we doing?
Okay.
And lastly, I don't know if you saw this, the Nashville Predators, hockey team in Nashville, right? Mm-hmm. Midst of an off season right now. They were getting their rookies out involved in community type of things. Great. Love that. They gave them T-shirts that said Preds in the community, and they posted this on social media. How does this get all the way to these being printed and given to the players? There is not one person along the way that says, hey, guys, this probably isn't a good idea. Preds in the community has a lot of negative connotations.
Somebody should have thought it through. Run it through an editor. Run it through somebody.
Again, you think these high-level organizations, somebody along the way is like, hold up, let's change this a little bit. Nashville giving back, I don't know, hockey in the community, whatever. Not Preds in the community, please.
I feel like those shirts just became collector's items, though.
Probably. I don't know if you can buy them on the team store, but I did see, I think somebody was making...
I doubt you can buy them on the team store now.
I think somebody was making bootleg versions for people that I'm sure will show up at some games this year. But yes, no foresight in the Preds in the community T-shirts.
And by the way, I disagree a little bit on the fireworks. I'll go with Saturday night on the 5th. If you get a Friday night, next year's different, I believe. I believe next year's different. I believe the 4th is on Saturday.
Is on Saturday, yes.
Whatever that falls. Now, you can't be on Monday. You can't have 7 days of fireworks. But Friday followed by Saturday, I'm okay with it.
And I don't like, because like Lake Murray does the fireworks show the weekend before.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. You want to do a fireworks show a few days before, make it an event, okay. But again, once the 4th is passed, for me, you're done. Same thing with New Year's. Don't shoot off fireworks on January 2nd or 3rd. Like, you have your day to get out of your system, do that.
803-404-6100. I'll put that out on a poll question on Twitter. I've tagged Tyler as well. I'll put that on a poll question. When should fireworks officially end? I also already put one out regarding our conversation regarding recruiting just a little while ago. Who is the most important player for South Carolina to land over the next 2 weeks? Is it Samari Matthews? Is it Tamarian Watkins? Or is it Landon Duckworth? We'll check on those, look at the text line, and continue on hour number 1 of the halftime show. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Tyler Head, and Captain Ed Bird. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank, where right now we're in the second half of the year. It is time for you to contact Jacob today and see what the interest rates are. See what options are available to you. If you're thinking about building, maybe you're thinking about buying, or maybe you're thinking about trying to save money and refinancing this year, guess what? You need to call Jacob Crowder today. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. You can also email him, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com is the way to reach out to him. Again, now we're into the back half of the year, and you might be looking at all the options available to you. Maybe you're thinking about refinancing. Maybe you're thinking about building a new home. Maybe you're thinking about purchasing a new home. Whatever it may be, the first call you need to make is to the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. So give him a phone call today, 803-719-1005. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you.
Welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunter. Ed Bird filling in for Captain Dave for the next couple days. We'll get him in at the end of the week. One staple of the halftime show when Terry and I were doing it was, of course, the text of the hour. Every day at the 45 segment at the end of the hour. We'll keep that going here with me and Bill, as I appreciate everybody weighing in on the Firehouse Subs text line at 803-404-6400. I got a couple here. GM weighs in and says he agrees with me that fireworks also torment dogs. So any day after the 4th of July, because you can kind of prepare, right, a little bit like, all right, guys, tonight's going to be a rough one, but after today, we're good. And when you have your neighbors shooting them off for the next 3 days in a row, probably not the most ideal. So he's right there with me that, yes, please don't shoot your fireworks after the 4th of July. Save it for New Year's. You get 2 days a year,
okay,
in my opinion.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm okay on a Friday night, Saturday night. If you want to say, well, again, I'd look at my calendar here real quick, but I believe next year, if I'm correct, next year is supposed to be, I don't think it's some kind of skip leap year.
We don't have a leap until 28.
Thank you. Okay. I definitely did not prepare for that nugget on this show. But, yeah, next year, Saturday night,
yep,
I'll probably give you the 5th. It depends to me on when do you take your days off? Like, do you do it leading up to the 4th? Are you going to take next year, July the 6th will be the Monday we come back with? You take the 6th off to kind of do the 4th and then get the following day? I think that's, to me, where I have to draw the line. Again, I'm with you. It can't be more than 2 days.
No.
And do you include the 3rd on that? Can it be the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th?
With the 3rd being on our Friday next year, I'll give you a pass.
Okay.
Again, it's not so much of the days leading up to it, it's the days after. Because I'm one of those people that, like, I don't let holidays linger too much. Once a holiday has passed, like, I'm not listening to Christmas music on December 26th.
Okay.
Like, it stops on the 25th, and then 26th we move on to the next thing, which would be New Year's. And all that. But, yeah, I kind of have a hard stop when it comes to holidays. So if you want to do it the day before or, again, like the weekend before like they do for some local events here, that's fine because you're leading up to it. But once that holiday is passed, I'm sorry. You got to save the fireworks until December 31st.
Okay. All right. I'm putting out the poll question now. You can go to either at Tyler Head 18 or at Will Gunner, and we'll let you. I'm going to give 1 or 2 days. Or it stops on the 4th.
Okay. 1 day
you're allowed, or 2 days you're allowed. And the only reason I do that right now is because, again, the fireworks were on the 4th this year. So even to me, while I'm not a huge fireworks person to begin with.
Sure.
But do you give somebody 2 days after if the 4th falls on a Friday and then Saturday, Sunday, and you're like, all right, sorry, folks, we're all back to work on Monday. Let it go.
Yeah. See, I feel like I can watch fireworks like once a year and be good for a while. I don't have to I'm not going to go out and sit in crazy traffic to go watch a fireworks show. Like my hometown used to do a fireworks show on the 4th of July, like most, local towns do on the square. And, it's a great 20-minute show, and they got all the American patriotic songs going to the beat of it. And then I sat in traffic for the next 2.5 hours. I'm like, I'm never coming back to this again. It's not worth it.
Okay. What else we got?
Let's see here. A lot of people weighing in on the fireworks thing. They agree with that. Apparently, Joey's looked up that Chestnut is worth $4 million, net worth at least. It's a lot of eating.
Well, net worth. I wonder how much. So I saw a number, but I wasn't sure if it was what he makes total for the year, actual job included, that I'm assuming he's taking a few days off afterward to recover.
Right.
Or if it was just in the eating category, but I saw $500,000. So I don't know $500,000. So I don't, again, he could have done some deals here or there elsewhere.
And given how big of a name he is, wow, the winner of the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest only gets $10,000. I thought it'd be more than that. But he does brand deals. Like talked about the Impossible Food things that prevented him from being in the contest last year. I've seen him pop up on YouTube videos with other content creators and things like that. So he's a known commodity around, given how good of an eater he is. So I imagine most competitive eaters aren't in the net worth of millions of dollars. He's kind of the rare exception.
Well, again, when it says $4 million, I'm going to assume a lot of that is from an actual job.
Probably so. And again, if he's an engineer, that's probably making him a few bucks, more likely than not.
And one other one? We got one other one?
Let's see here. Let's get one more in here. Greg also brings up the fireworks cleanup that's left a mess in the street if you're shooting them in the days after.
All right. And Chris weighs in and says 1 day past is okay.
Okay.
1 day past is okay. Beyond that, no.
All right.
So you okay with that? Can we convince you to be okay with that?
If it's only one, maybe. But yeah, last night was overkill because we're 2 days removed. Let's move on, please.
Gotcha. 803-404-6100. Again, if you want to weigh in on the text line, we've talked recruiting this hour. Again, about 2 weeks coming up from today all the way through the 18th. And again, those big names are high, or two of them are high-end 4-stars, top 60 prospects, Samari Matthews and Landon Duckworth. And then the third is, in my opinion, actually the best. He's up there with Jazavion Currents, Tamarion Watkins, who I think is I think this is unfair to say, but I'm going to say it, is going to be the next Nick Eamon-Warrior in terms of size, build, what he can do.
That'd be great if he is. We'll see.
And I'll ask you this, too, real quick. The fact that he has a Georgia offer and Kirby Smart seems that puts more stock into him than his ranking.
It does, and I think that's what people pay the most attention to now is okay, who are you competing with? Because if you beat a guy out, that's being looked at by Virginia and Old Dominion and, Kent State, no disrespect to those schools, but that's different than beating a guy that's being looked at by Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and Texas. You know what I mean? So as we talked about, you got to start winning those battles more consistently to kind of elevate yourself to that next level when it comes to recruiting. And again, you're on the cusp of doing that because you've won some of those battles so far, and that would be another big get if they get that here coming up next week. Yeah, those three guys. You can go to, again, our Twitter account at TylerHead18 and at Will Gunter, and you can vote in on that. Currently, right now, Landon Duckworth, I don't know if you'd agree with this, Landon Duckworth leading the way, 60% of the vote. Tamarion Watkins at 22%, and Samari Matthews at 19% in there, right around 18.5, 22.2, and 59.3. It's fair. We'll come back. Hour 2 on the way. We'll get into some Braves discussion and a little bit more as we roll along. You're listening to The Halftime Show.
1 o'clock p.m. 1 o'clock p.m. I am told that in the previous hour I said 7:34 at one point. Very possible, Tyler. Just add it to the list of minor mistakes, big mistakes in hour number 1.
We're all learning. We're getting used to it.
It's going to take me a few days, folks. It's going to take me a few days. 803-404-6100. Welcome in again. The first show of the brand new halftime show. Tyler Hedge and I now will carry you from 12 to 3 each and every day. And Captain David Ayer will be in to produce for us. Today we've got Dr. How is it? Hour number 2, you get to be Dr. Ed Bird. How is that? How does that work? You were captain in hour number 1. We promoted him to doctor in hour number 2.
Well, what's it going to be in hour number 3?
I got to think about it. I got 59 minutes.
How much better can we get than that?
Major?
By the way, does his pay reflect these ascending titles?
I am not on the HR board here. I am not handling that. So look forward to it each and every day. Again, we got a great lineup of guests that'll be joining us, especially throughout football season. Tyler is, you and I, we both big, huge college football fans. I have texted my son Austin during the break.
Okay. What's
and I saw this actually on Twitter, and then I thought to text him. But the game, the EA Sports College 26, officially out.
Okay. Now, how much time have you spent on last year's game, or is it primarily him playing it?
Well, it's a good question. There was a defining moment, as most dads have.
Sure.
It used to be out in the driveway for basketball. Mm-hmm. Now it's on the sticks. It's on the video game. I got thumped one game. And I don't mean beat. You get beat 28-21. You get beat 35-21. You got beat like 56-17 by him in a game. I believe that would be the last time we played.
I will say, and I was a religious player of the prior versions that stopped a decade ago. The last year's game was so different. I spent the first couple of months figuring out how to play it. Defense is different. Kicking is different. The way you pass the ball is different. Like, I sucked for a while. I was giving up 50, 60 points a game in dynasty mode before I kind of locked in and figured out what to do. So it does take time to kind of get used to the new way of doing it.
803-404-6100. Send in just yes or no. All you got to do is send in yes or no. Will you play or will you buy the new college football game that is out now for Xbox and PS5 and whatever else you can play it on? I hate to say it. As I say that sentence, I feel so old now. But this is, quite frankly, for about a week, Tyler, this is our excitement until SEC Media Days Monday.
It's kind of become that turning point in the summer. That, when the old game was coming out, was kind of the same way. And look, SEC Media Days is for everyone. A lot of casual college football fans aren't paying attention to what coaches are going to be saying in Atlanta. But, like, the game coming out is kind of when you flip that switch of, okay, 50-some-odd days to football, we're in full gear, let's go. And, you play that as much as you can until the actual games get here.
It used to, well, you're right. When the game came out, you're exactly right. I remember many a day that I would leave 5 points. Typically, I think it used to be released on a Wednesday night.
Probably.
That was obviously before you could pre-download it and everything.
You had to go camp out at GameStop.
But, we would go to Walmart. And we would go to Walmart over in West Columbia, and we would end up, purchasing the game there at 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. There was a 24-hour buy low right next door.
Okay.
And because it was a Wednesday night, we would grab a big old pack of beer, whatever it was, and a couple pizzas.
Nice.
And then if you were in summer school that particular Thursday, you didn't attend. You slept when you could sleep, and when you could get on the sticks, you got on the sticks. And so that came out pre-release today, early release, and I know a lot more kids are playing, but probably a lot of y'all are having to go back to work. I asked you, like, when do you decide your week off or your days off? I can see where maybe people tied it in with Friday and now have the whole week off now.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I would also imagine if you work at an office, last week's work production, very, very low. Yeah. But what I was going to say, and I don't know if you agree with me, because I feel like it's more, you got the older games when you were younger.
Yep.
Then you go through almost a 12-year phase where you don't have it.
Yep.
It almost became when you were buying the Athlon or the Phil Steele or
that became
Streets
pretty
and Smiths.
Significant. I always kind of look at the Phil Steele, which comes out usually late June. That's kind of like, okay, now here's fresh content, perspective on every single team. That now you just download it digitally. You don't have to go buy it in the stores every single time. But there was something nice about finally seeing that on the shelf and being like, season's almost here.
Yeah, and I can see a situation where, now the season's here as a texter weighs in and says, leaving work early now to go home, and I will log a ridiculous amount of hours.
There you go.
So keep them coming. 803-404-6100. Hour 1, we discussed a little bit of football recruiting, and Tyler, I think we're both in agreement. you cannot have South Carolina fans, and I don't think the staff has this mentality, but South Carolina fans, you've got to win really all three of these battles coming up. Samari Matthews, Tamarian Watkins, and Landon Duckworth. You would secure your quarterback for a while. And I'll be honest, in the new transfer portal rules, if Lenore Sellers does indeed leave and you go through spring practice, it wouldn't surprise me to see Cutter Woods or Aaron Nolan be like, yeah, that guy got the job.
Sure.
I'm out right now.
That's just the nature of college football in general, especially quarterback, because only one can play.
Right.
And if you don't see a path to get on the field outside of maybe packages or something like that, but it seems like Nolan and Cutter Woods are the same type of quarterback where that probably wouldn't happen. You're going to say, yeah, I want to go find my playing time elsewhere.
Yeah. So securing your quarterback, basically of the future, would be very important there. And Landon Duckworth, Samari Matthews or Smoke Matthews out of the Charlotte area is the highest rated prospect of all of them. Could play either nickelback or cornerback. And as a guy that South Carolina's been on for a very, very long time, this again, you look at what Torian Gray's done with that defensive backfield and the way they've been able to play. This is landing another elite player, and then also Tamarian Watkins, maybe, at least from what I've talked with people about, has the biggest upside of all three of them. Just needs to be refined. And so those are your three.
Sure.
But what I was going to say, and I'll get your opinion, South Carolina fans cannot have the mentality of, well, we lost to Texas. Well, we lost to Texas. That happens. And we don't know who Landon Duckworth is. But you've got to have we have to get these players to take the next step to 10 wins and constantly being in the playoff discussion.
You absolutely do. And again, Landon Duckworth's probably command a lot of attention because he's a quarterback, and that's obviously the most important position. But, yeah, all these guys, if South Carolina can land them, are critical to the future of this program, development, and all those kind of things. And you feel like you're kind of in a bit of a window right now. I said this earlier today that, you look at Sellers coming back and maybe being the most hyped quarterback going into a season in South Carolina football history, you got to capitalize. And even when he moves on to the NFL, maybe after this year, you want to keep that momentum rolling. You don't want to say, man, we could have done so much more in that time period where you had all these great players. You feel like you missed on your chance to make the playoff last year by those couple plays between the LSU game, the Alabama game, and all that kind of stuff because of how good your talent was. Now, they could have gotten bounced in the first round of the playoffs. We don't know. But still, you were that close to making it, and you certainly, that keeps you up at night knowing you were that close and didn't quite get there. So you hope you can get over that hump this year and keep that going for the years to come. And now look back and say, man, you had the opportunity to strike and make something happen, and you just came up short.
Obviously, we'll never know, but you would assume South Carolina would have been the number 12 team and would have gone to play Penn State in Happy Valley, and definitely would have been very interested to see how that game would have played out. So we talked about that. Also, last hour, we got into a little bit of firework discussion coming off of a Friday, July the 4th, where it rolled into the weekend, and Tyler says, hey, cut it out. There's more fireworks after July the 4th.
Line in the sand. I draw a hard line in the sand. You've had your fun. Now wait until New Year's.
By the way, real quick on that, I will agree with you on New Year's. Fireworks on the 31st. Yeah. After that, get out of here with it.
It's done.
I'm okay. I'm more willing to accept fireworks on the 5th or the 6th, especially as it fell this weekend with a weekend 5th and 6th. But I'm with you on December 31st. You get your fireworks. You get all of it out of yourself.
Guess what? A lot of people have to go back to work on the 2nd or the 3rd or whatever it may be, and not quite as fun being kept up by those fireworks.
Or the dogs as well. And another texter weighs in and just mentions, hey, think about the veterans as well who've seen active duty. They can actually prepare themselves for the 4th, not so much for the animals. So.
Absolutely.
803-404-6100. Coming up, we're going to talk some college football. Two different discussions. Next will be on the Pro Football Focus Top 50 players. Where did Dylan Stewart rank in? What and how many players is South Carolina going to play this year that ranked in the top 50? And also, coming up later on this hour, we're going to discuss rivalries. The Athletic website put out a list of the top 25 college football rivalries. Where did South Carolina fit? We'll tell you both of those things coming up this hour, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Dr. Ed Bird. You're listening to The Halftime Show. 114 on your Monday. There was the third. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's about number 4. So if you're taking shots or you're putting dollars in a bucket, either one, you're having a really good day right now. 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show in the afternoon with Tyler Head, Dr. Ed Bird, and, of course, myself, Bill Gunner, trying to make the transition to the afternoon. It was definitely nice sleeping a little bit more this morning. Pro Football Focus. I'm always fascinated by this stuff. Tyler, Preston would get into it. I got to admit, maybe a little bit too numbery, a little bit too analytical, a little bit too geeky, but I always am intrigued by it. And I say that because we have Pro Football Focus's top 50 players for the 2025 season that has now been released.
Yep.
Dylan Stewart checks in at number 9. Let's talk about that for a second and get your thoughts on Dylan Stewart being at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there in between a couple of other really good edge defenders, Colin Simmons at Texas and T.J. Parker at Clemson. So he's in good company. I think certainly when you look at what he did, especially as a true freshman, it really jumps off the page at you. I think we're going to learn just how dominant he can be this year, considering the fact that even more attention is going to be paid to him because you don't have the Bronco Nagurski Award winner on the other side of the other side of the line there, commanding some of that attention. So he's going to have an opportunity to really prove his worth this upcoming year. But yeah, and again, when you have a list of the top 50 best players in college football, considering the fact that we're talking about 130 plus teams, it's really hard, and you're really kind of splitting hairs when you come to some of these guys in the top 10. But just being considered to be in the top 10 is quite an accomplishment and well-deserved by Dylan Stewart for sure.
The write-up from Pro Football Focus on Dylan Stewart says Stewart is the most athletic South Carolina edge defender since Jadeveon Clowney was sending helmets flying more than a decade ago. And like Clowney, he has the upside of becoming a number 1 overall pick. The former 5-star recruit earned a 91.4 Pro Football Focus pass rush grade as just a true freshman, tying him for 6th among all college football edge defenders. His 51 pressures tied for the 2nd most among returning Power 4 edge rushers. And Stewart needs to get stronger to set the edge better in the run game, but he's already the most fearsome pass rusher in college football.
Well, and I know we kind of look at the numbers of like sacks and tackles for loss and stuff like that when it comes to the edge position, but his effect on quarterbacks last year was insane. I mean, even going back to when Kate Klubnik threw the interception at the end of the Clemson game, it was Dylan Stewart putting the pressure on him, forcing him into essentially a bad throw, if I remember correctly, that led to Demetrius not getting that pick to Topsy in the game. So, and that was constant throughout the entire season. Just that presence of him being there, not allowing quarterbacks enough time, sit back in the pocket and let things develop down the field, help that defense out tremendously. And again, like the write-up here says, he has that potential to be in a couple years because, again, only a true freshman, so he's got at least 2 more seasons hopefully here at South Carolina. He could be in that same mold of Clowney by the time his junior year is over with.
Just to give you a kind of an idea here, because I'm going to come back and ask Tyler something that I find very intriguing on this, but number 1 on this list is Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State wide receiver. Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, just absolutely.
Would have been a first-round pick if he was eligible for the draft this year.
Some debate he might have been the number 1 pick.
Maybe so.
Over it. Caleb Downs, also an Ohio State player, the former Alabama star who transferred last year. He checks in at number 2. 3, defensive lineman Peter Woods, a player that South Carolina will have to deal with here in Columbia at the end of the year.
Yeah, again, and this Clemson roster seems like it's the most built for a national championship run that any of they've had in the past couple of years. And defensively speaking, that kind of leads the way there, with guys like Woods and stuff like that, playing up front. So, yeah, you're going to have to obviously deal with him. And it's no surprise that Ohio State perhaps the 2 best players in the entire country with Woods and Downs, who both had respective great seasons as freshmen. Downs when he was at Alabama, and obviously Jeremiah Smith a year ago. So, again, I'm not going to argue and say that they're wrong in putting those 3 guys at the very top.
You speak of that, of the top 10. Again, I mentioned Peter Woods 3rd, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, number 4, Spencer Fano, I believe is how you say it, from Utah at 5, Leonard Moore from Notre Dame at number 6, a defensive back. 7, Kate Klubnik, checking in as their highest-rated quarterback in this class,
yeah,
or in this for this year.
And we've seen Cade develop a lot in these past couple of years. Again, took over for DJU at the end of the 2022 season, helped them win that ACC championship game. And his first year as a starter in 23, a little bit rocky. He got into some trouble making decisions on his own that obviously ended up hurting Clemson. But last year, you saw him come along truly as a passer. His numbers went way up, passing touchdowns, interceptions went down. And again, he's got all those tools they're looking for at the next level where he could legitimately be, like maybe Lenore Sellers as well, one of those quarterbacks hearing his name called in the first round in next year's NFL draft. And yeah, he's going to be a problem to deal with. There's no two ways about that. You could be looking at maybe the best overall quarterback matchup this entire year between Sellers and Klubnik coming up the end of the regular season. And you hate to give credit to Clemson quarterbacks, but they were a factory for them for a while with guys like Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, and Klubnik may be kind of in that same mold of those guys now.
I think one of the reasons that we South Carolina fans, 107.5 The Game, at times do not give Klubnik the credit he deserves is because he has not had good games against South Carolina.
Yes.
Last year wasn't bad. Last year was far better than 2023, mind you, when they didn't score an offensive touchdown. But Klubnik has not been that impressive against South Carolina. Now, as it mentions in the article here, only Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders threw more touchdowns than Klubnik last year. Mm-hmm. Klubnik also ranked 5th in big-time throws with 28.
And he's going to have maybe the best receiving core in the entire country. In terms of the three guys that he's got available there, and Williams, Wesco, and was it TJ Moore, the other one? So he's going to have an embarrassment of riches around him. We'll see how the running back room is now that Phil Moff has gone off to the NFL, but he's going to have great talent around him to help him out, certainly. And unfortunately, that's not something you can say with a ton of certainty for a guy like Lenore Sellers right now, given the fact that we don't feel the greatest about the wide receiver room. Feel good about it, but not quite the level that Clemson feels. Offensive line still a question mark. Don't know about the running back situation as of right now. Like, Klubnik has everything around him he needs to succeed and have a great season.
Speaking of what, so Peter Woods and Klubnik, both in the top 7.
Yep.
Number 8 is Colin Simmons at Texas. Number 9, we just talked about him, Gamecock Dylan Stewart. Number 10 is another Clemson player, edge T.J. Parker. So if you're just doing the top 10, Clemson has 3 of the top 10 players, according to Pro Football Focus. You can go to their Twitter account and read the article yourself, the breakdown of players. But 3 of the top 10. Ohio State has 2 of the top 10. Notre Dame has 2 of the top 10.
Yeah, no, I mean, Clemson has stuck to their guns when it comes to developing talent out of high school. And sure, we've laughed at Dabo plenty of times. And I thought last year when they got smoked by Georgia in game 1 of the regular season that I thought, hey, this is kind of your sign that you need to change your approach. Obviously ended up working out for them as the season went along. And again, they seem to be one of the best teams positioning themselves roster-wise to make a run at the national championship because of the depth and because of the experience they've had by sticking to their guns of looking at high school recruiting and taking that as top priority over portal guys.
So again, Gamecocks and I'm going to lead you into something here. Gamecocks with only 1 player.
Yep.
In the Pro Football Focus College Top 50. Now, let me read you what this says here. And Tyler, I want your explanation here. This is straight off of their article. It says, using Pro Football Focus's exclusive data and grading, we've identified the most dominant and valuable players in the country, based not on hype, but on proven production and projection. Okay? Proven production and projection. I want you to remember that. Whether it's a future first-round quarterback or a breakout edge rusher primed for a monster year, these are the 50 names every college football fan needs to know this fall. Okay, cool. South Carolina has one dude in the top 50. And I just read his name. It's Dylan Stewart.
Yep.
So you're telling me Lenore Sellers isn't one of the top 50 players based on, again, production and projection.
Yes, and when you go down to number 50 on the list, it's Arch Manning, who from
I was going to get to that, yes.
A projection standpoint, very high. Production up to this point, not a whole lot. Yeah, he looked great against Louisiana, Monroe, and Mississippi State, but most quarterbacks will. And look, I get it. The hype around his name and him being a 5-star makes sense. But again, Sellers did prove to you, especially at the end of last season, he was one of the better quarterbacks in college football. He's on the short list for the Heisman Trophy. He is a candidate for being a number 1 first-round pick.
Top 10 pick.
Next year. Top 10 pick, maybe the number 1 overall pick. We'll have to see. So I think it's a glaring omission to not have him on this list at all. And again, does he have to be in the top 10? Not necessarily. But if you told me he was the 25th best player in college football, all right, that's believable. I get that. But, yeah, omitting him from this list completely is definitely a little surprising for guys that, again, have not had nearly the amount of playing time that he has.
I and your responsibility here, me being the Gamecock guy, and you're being the honest, unbiased, straight, the guy who's going to look at me and go, I don't think you're right on that one. This is wrong.
It is, and I gauge a lot of perception based on what national people are talking about. Because, again, we're in the bubble. We're going to talk about South Carolina regardless. And, sure, maybe we hype up guys that otherwise people aren't really talking about. But I hear the McElroys. I hear the David Pollocks. I hear the, Josh Pates, J.D. Paquette, all these guys nationally that cover college football that don't zero in on one area, talking about Lenore Sellers, talking about how good he's supposed to be this upcoming year, and that makes you wonder, okay, well, why can't he make his way on this list in some form or fashion? Again, this is just one outlet, and Pro Football focuses, so it's not the end-all, be-all, but it seems like most people have the perception that he's being looked at as one of the best players in the sport, so seeing him not featured on a list like this, especially as, wide-ranging as 50 different players can be, is surprising.
Just if you're wondering, okay, well, what other quarterbacks are on the list? Who else do they have above Lenore Sellers? Well, let me start with, by the way, I don't agree with this quarterbacking list at all. I don't mind. You want to put Cade Klubnik up there as the top quarterback in the – okay, all right. I'll again, I think we have a biased view of Cade Klubnik because of how he's performed against South Carolina. The number overall 17 player on this list – and the number 2 quarterback is Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. Leavitt was good last year.
He was.
He was good. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, well, I know all about Arizona State football right now on the 7th of July. I'm surprised you'd have him ahead of, I don't know, Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, I would definitely have Nussmeier, maybe even the top 10 for myself personally. Leavitt was good. Again, was a big part of why Arizona State got as far as they did. Now, Cam Scatterbo certainly played maybe even a bigger role in that with how good he was, out of the backfield. But I guess maybe this is kind of where the projections of what's to come is really factoring in here because, again, good season, but I wouldn't put him ahead of, again, a lot of these quarterbacks on this list that we're going to get to here in a second.
You'd have Nussmeier at number 3, though, right? We'd all put Nussmeier at least at number 3.
Yeah, at least.
Okay, well, they don't.
Yeah.
They got some dude named Carson Beck who had 20 turnover-worthy plays last year, tied for the 6th most in the country. Carson Beck, the number 3 quarterback on the list at number 21.
Yeah, and look, he didn't have as much help around him with a Georgia receiving core that was dropping everything thrown his way, but still, he made
31 drops.
31 drops, led the nation. He still made some really dumb mistakes, like throwing into double coverage against Florida was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Now, going into last year, he was the favorite for the Heisman. He was thought to be a first-round pick, so that potential and projected upside is always going to be there for him. We'll see how going down to Miami and working with Mario Cristobal, rounds things out. And if he plays at his best, he certainly could be one of the best quarterbacks and players in college football. But I'm very much in the what have you done for me lately kind of category with these kind of things. So, yes, being the 3rd best quarterback overall on this list doesn't quite sit with me.
Number 22 overall, number 4 on the quarterback list, Drew Allar. Number 5 on the list at number 23. Finally, we get to Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, and look, Aller made a huge step forward last year, especially when it came to throwing downfield. And again, had a lot of good talent around him on that Penn State offense. And again, he likes Sellers being talked about as a potential first-round pick, maybe number 1 overall pick, because he's got all those tools to play at the next level. But I probably would have had him 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th on this list overall when we're talking about quarterbacks. And I think 22nd overall is a solid place. But, yeah, some of those quarterbacks like Leavitt and Beck probably not deserving of being ahead of him at this point in time.
And again, 6th quarterback, as Tyler mentioned, at number 50 overall, Arch Manning. I think we're all going to despise Arch Manning by the time we get to the start of the season.
If you're not already sick of him yet.
Yeah.
And that Week 1 game against Ohio State has the potential to launch that hype into the stratosphere if they go in there and win that game and he, throws for 250 and 2 touchdowns and no picks.
Well, just wait. What happens if Julian Sayin has a big game? And do we all move Julian Sayin ahead of Arch Manning and up to the top of the Heisman list?
Maybe.
Julian Sayin, former Alabama quarterback who transferred when Nick Saban retired and ended up at Ohio State and will be there. Should be their starting quarterback this coming season. 803-404-6100 will come back. We mentioned the Athletics article on rivalries. South Carolina, are they a South Carolina Clemson? Top 10? Top 15? They're at least top 20, right? Well, we'll tell you when we come back. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Dr. Ed Bird. It is the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Now, you looked at the weather this week. If you looked at the weather today, it is expected to get up to, it's probably already there, but it's expected to get up to 96 degrees. So, in other words, I hope your air conditioning is working great at your home, but it might not be. And maybe you just need a repair. Well, guess what? With AAA Heating and Air, all you need to do is be a homeowner with a valid bank account, and you can get repairs with payment plans for up to 12 months. That's right. If you're worried about the finances, if you're worried about trying to cover everything, AAA Heating and Air is taking care of their customers with 12-month payment plans on repairs. On repairs. You don't even have to get a brand new unit, just on repairs to make sure your heating and air unit is working properly. Call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Learn more about 12-month payment plans for repairs and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. $134. I'm getting closer. I'm getting there. I think I didn't mess up last segment calling this the morning, the early game, whatever, or giving you a time that was some way correlated between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. It'll be a process. Hopefully you're all here for it as we make our first ever the halftime show, new edition.
Well, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, so you can never go wrong saying that.
You know me so well. You know how I live my life. Thank you. 803-404-6100. I want to remind you about the craft beer card. Just $59. It's our summer craft beer card. Go to 1075thegame.com. Click on Sweet Deals. Purchase yours today. It is a savings of around $300. Again, it is the 1075 The Game craft beer card now. Just $59. And all you got to do is go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals. And I guess that's speaking in terms of 5 o'clock somewhere. So think about that.
There you go.
All right. We're biased. I'm biased.
Sure.
I'll let you speak for yourself. We're actually going to have a fun show because my family pretty much all went to Georgia. I'm the road outlier.
You said it was kind of like your secondary team.
And to make matters worse, my daughter bought it. No real reason whatsoever. Just bought it, and now she is actually a Georgia. She loves Carolina, but is actually a Georgia fan too. And now uses it to harass my son. Talk about sibling rivalry. So now she barks at him and does all the things that. Well, to put it.
Sure, that's fun.
She's an obnoxious Georgia fan too. So I can speak that because she's 15 and she'll be 16 in 2 months. But Georgia has a bunch of rivalries.
Yes,
they got, and that's why I've always enjoyed the game. I look forward to it being back in 2026.
Yep.
I've had a lot of great memories going to Georgia games there and at Williams-Rice Stadium. But I don't think South Carolina considers that a rivalry. And quite frankly, and I've said this before, if there was another rival for South Carolina, I'm not sure it's not Kentucky, because Tennessee's the same way. I would say Tennessee, but because the games have been so close the majority of the time. But I would actually lean Tennessee, but Tennessee doesn't care about South Carolina either. They're looking at Alabama. They're looking at Georgia. They're looking at,
I think South Carolina and Kentucky both look at each other on an even plane. Like, both sides say, hey, we should be beating those guys. Why aren't we? When Kentucky's lost to Carolina the past couple of years, and it's always fun to watch the KSR boys' reaction to it. They're losing their minds. Like, how could we lose to South Carolina? This is unbecoming in this program. And if, South Carolina lost to Kentucky this year in Williams-Rice Stadium, it would be the same thing. Like, how could you lose to this Kentucky team? So I think it's a rivalry built off kind of being on an even playing field with each other for the majority of your time, in the SEC so far. Because, outside of that, you don't have really any built-in rivals within the conference, which, again, if we go to this 9-game model and you have the rotating thing with, 1 permanent and 8 rotating opponents, who's South Carolina's permanent? I don't know.
So my point, I think both of ours point on that, is the fact that I'm not real sure that South Carolina can point to a team in the SEC and be like, we fabricated a rivalry with Missouri.
Yeah, and they tell us that A&M's a rival.
Well, it's a fake trophy somewhere. Who knows?
Of some guy that is from Carolina that fought in the Alamo. Okay, sure. I think there was rivalry elements with Georgia, and especially like in the mid-2000s. Those games were always low-scoring slobber knockers, and it seemed like the lower-ranked team or unranked team always won it. I say from a Georgia perspective, the Carolina game was always an annoying one because you always knew Spurrier was going to get the best of you no matter how good or bad his team was. The history with Tennessee and Florida, obviously playing them every single year for 30-plus years,
32,
gave a lot of elements of a rivalry too, which, again, this past year was just very weird to not see those teams on the schedule. So that's kind of the closest things you have in conference to rivals.
So that brings us to what is South Carolina's true rival, the most hated rival, and I don't use hated lightly, but that's what it is, the villain of the state. Those people who put on orange and they have a purple paw or white paw on their chest. It's very annoying, to be quite honest. But it is the big rivalry, and I'm well aware of the numbers. I don't need any of y'all texting in and telling me what the overall numbers are on that rivalry. But where does it rank nationally? It's number 1 for us.
Yeah, of course.
But you start looking nationally, The Athletic has put out a tweet, and it's ranking the top CFB rivalries. It is from Scott Dorkman. You just may as well call him Scott Dorkman. But he's got a lot of rivalries on here. As I said going to break, like, South Carolina be a top 20 national rivalry, right?
Sure.
Not according to Scott Dorkman. He's got him at 24. Let me give you some of the rivalries he has ahead of South Carolina. What if I told you about Ohio State, Penn State? Do we agree with that being a rivalry? Ooh. It's a great. I'm not going to argue with the game. I'm not going to argue with the importance of the game.
Sure.
But in what the word rivalry means, is it a rivalry?
No, I just think that's a big game in the Big Ten, but I don't think of it. I don't even know if it has a name or not. I don't think of that as a rivalry matchup. Do they even play every single year?
Yeah.
Are they annual opponents?
They were in the same division prior to the Big Ten doing whatever the Big Ten has done.
But no, I don't consider that.
Would you consider it a rivalry because I'm going to give you another one that sits at number 20 ahead of South Carolina and Clemson in a minute, and you tell me if that's a rivalry. But Wisconsin, Minnesota also checks in on the list of this rivalry that ranks ahead of South Carolina. In fact, and I'm pretty sure Scott Dortmund did this strictly for what we're doing today, which is talking about it.
Yep.
But he's got Minnesota, Wisconsin at number 10 nationally. 10 nationally. Real quick, he's got them ahead of Alabama, Tennessee.
Yep.
He's got them ahead of Georgia, Florida. He's got them ahead of Alabama, LSU. He's got Minnesota, Wisconsin ahead of Texas A&M.
Is that for the Little Brown Jug? It's one of those trophy games, right?
The Axe. It's Paul Bunyan's Axe.
Paul Bunyan's Axe. That's what it is. And I think it's one of the oldest rivalries in all of college football. So maybe that's giving it some juice there. But no, I don't think of that. Considering the fact that Wisconsin's had plenty of good years towards the top of college football, but I never think about Minnesota as a perennial like Big Ten contender. And I think that knocks you down a little bit when both teams kind of aren't on the same level when it comes to playing the rivalry. I mean, the Paul Bunyan Axe is cool, as are most of the Big Ten trophies, but I wouldn't put it in top 10 rivalry category necessarily.
Yeah, and as you just heard me mention, again, according to Scott Dortmund, again, The Athletic, you can go to their Twitter account and see it. He's got it ahead. Okay, fine. You want to say, if he wants to go out nationally because of what you just said with a dominance in the rivalry, he's got it ahead of Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, and I'll even say Alabama, LSU.
Minnesota, Wisconsin is the longest continuously played rivalry in FBS. And so that's probably propping it up a lot.
I believe if it wasn't for COVID, South Carolina, Clemson would be second or third. They were right there at it, matching it.
A lot of rivalries got hurt by that COVID year.
Also on this list, now you can talk about things. Number 19. Let me skip ahead to 19. What about Kansas, Missouri? How is that any better? I'm not saying it's a great rivalry. I'm not saying that it's not a rivalry. I'm asking, is it higher up than South Carolina, Clemson?
Well, and we're looking at a lot of these rivalries now that aren't played all that often. Because, back when they were in the Big 12, absolutely. That was a huge game. They'd played Arrowhead on the last week of the regular season, and there were years when it had national championship implications. But this is a game that doesn't get played every single year anymore. So I think the fact that the rivalry is not continuous,
very good.
And, I think they're playing again this year, and I think they played last year. But the fact that, in the next couple of years, they're not going to be playing each other, I think that hurts you because you're not doing this every single season. I think the best rivalries are played every single year.
I'm not going to argue for number 20 being a rivalry. But is it a top CFB rivalry at number 20, ahead of Clemson, South Carolina at 24? Is it a top rivalry? How about Harvard-Yale?
I think that's also one of the ones that's just so darn old and been played for so long. I think that props it up. Let me see. But I think you could find a place for it in the top 25. Again, I just think Carolina and South Carolina and Clemson should be higher on the list regardless. I'm not mad about that being 20. It's certainly a conversation point. It's certainly better than some of these other ones that, again, don't get played every single year.
Michigan State also ahead of South Carolina at 16. I feel like if you were to compare a rivalry to South Carolina Clemson, Michigan State would be one. I know Michigan State was phenomenal in the 60s, and I got it. The 60s are a long, long time ago.
Yes. No, Michigan's been holding up they're into that one for a while now.
Clemson, South Carolina at number 24, and Oklahoma State, which was a great rivalry, is no longer being played, is number 25 on the list. Again, you can go to the Athletics Twitter account to see more.
Nebraska, Oklahoma is number 6. And yes, back in the heyday of the Big 8, sure, but that's not being played anymore.
Very true.
So why are we considering this one of the best in college football? Maybe if we're talking about all time, okay, sure. But if we're talking about right now, absolutely not.
803-404-6100 if you want to text in. David weighs in. It's clear this guy doesn't like the ACC or the SEC for that matter. There you go. We'll get a little bit more into that. A couple of y'all weighing in. We'll go back and revisit some of our polls as well. We'll hold the Braves segment for the next hour because we got to discuss this, Tyler. We were both Braves fans, and I got swept this weekend, so we'll discuss that next hour. You're listening to Tyler Head, Dr. Ed Bird, and me, Bill Gunner. It is the early game. No, it's not. Phil Gunner for Corley Pool Solutions. Summer is fully upon us. You just heard me in the last read talk about how it's supposed to be like 96, 97 degrees today. Let me tell you, and this is a little bit different now because I will be going home at about 3 o'clock. That sounds like the kind of day you want to jump in your pool. But if it's not maintained properly, and I mean by professionals, then you may have some issues with some of the chemicals and the way it has been maintained. That's why you call Corley Pool Solutions, 803-445-8109. Again, that's 803-445-8109. With over 20 years of experience in the pool maintaining industry, Tracy Corley and his team know they're not just maintaining your pool, they're maintaining your lifestyle. And that's why they want to do their absolute best. So call today and learn about flat rate pricing, including all of the chemicals. 803-445-8109. That's how you can call Tracy Corley and Corley Pool Solutions today and schedule your maintenance. $148 on a Monday. It's the halftime show. You already knew that, but clearly I don't because I think I'm on 3 now of the early game. Like I said, hey, if you're out for lunch and you're having a beverage and you start taking a shot every time I say it, you're probably not going back to work today. But don't worry, I'm going to get it right. I'll start learning that I'm here in the afternoon with Tyler Head and Captain David Ayer. Today it's Dr. Ed Bird filling in at the producing department and doing a fantastic job, certainly much better than I am doing. If you want to weigh in on anything we have discussed, 803-404-6100. Again, everything we've discussed today all the way back to recruiting and South Carolina. Right now, about to go through a massive 2 weeks. Just an absolutely massive 2 weeks between now and really the end of SEC Media Days, where you'll have announcements from Charlotte, defensive back, 4-star prospect, almost 5-star prospect, Samari Matthews. You'll have an announcement a week from today from 4-star safety/linebacker Tamarion Watkins. And then you will have Landon Duckworth making his announcement right now, scheduled for July the 18th. So that'll be on a Friday there that you will be able to see if South Carolina has their quarterback for the class in the next 3 weeks. And I put out a poll question. I got Tyler tagged in it. If you go to my Twitter at Will, W-I-L-1-L, Gunter, G-U-N-T-E-R, discussing the next 2 weeks of recruiting for the Gamecocks with expected decisions from Matthews, Watkins, and Duckworth. Who is the most important recruiting target for the Gamecocks to land? I've got you Landon Duckworth, Samari Matthews, and Tamarion Watkins. And right now, with the votes, several votes, plenty of votes already in, it says that Tamarion Watkins, excuse me, I apologize, Watkins is second, which actually caught me more off guard. It's actually Landon Duckworth weighing in with 50, or round up, 54% of the vote.
That makes sense. Again, quarterback, most important position, and he's somebody that is one of the more highly touted guys in that 26 class that, you kind of look at as hopefully the future of your program for the next several years once he gets on campus. And, if you get the quarterback position figured out, then everything else can fall in line behind that, as we've seen with Lenore Sellers. So, not really surprising that's the kind of way that people are going as of right now.
Yeah, I going to what you said there, I agree with you. I think the big part of that is kind of knowing, without saying out loud, your succession plan, right? We all assumed Lenore Sellers was going to be the guy last year.
Yes.
We were pretty much under the impression. We knew what the succession plan, Rattler to Sellers. you might not want to say it out loud, but whoever you feel like the coaching staff and Darren Usher, the director of scouting, is already thinking ahead. Like, all right, we know we got Aram Noland, we know we got Cutter Woods, and if we add Landon Duckworth, we kind of got to be thinking about, while having a quarterback battle, who we kind of see the most out of.
And you almost kind of need to have more than what you need to have an overflow when it comes to quarterbacks. Because, again, if you just have one, there's no competition around it. You could run yourself into a situation where if that guy gets hurt, obviously you're kind of screwed at that point. So you kind of almost build your quarterback room with the expectation that some guy's going to transfer out after time. I think we saw the writing on the wall back in the spring that Dante Reno was going to transfer out. Because, again, go back to spring game, he only took a handful of snaps. So it's like, okay, that's probably an indication there's no chance he's going to be in the running for this backup job. And lo and behold, he ends up transferring a few weeks after that. So, yes, you have Aaron Noland, you have Cutter Woods, two guys that are pretty highly touted themselves, and it's going to be interesting to see which one's second on the depth chart when the season does roll around. But you always have to continue to be bringing in quarterbacks, if not every class, every other class, because, again, what if those two guys don't work out? You want to have a third option there. And, hey, if Landon Duckworth ends up being your quarterback in 2026 because he's the best option, okay, and you expect one, if not both those other guys to end up transferring out. That's kind of the game you have to play now when it comes to that quarterback position. So I'm never going to be upset with them for going after another quarterback. And again, Duckworth, a prior commitment from a while back that has stayed in the running with South Carolina despite opening up his recruitment, and seems like they're in a good spot to land him once again.
According to 24/7 Sports, their composite rankings, so all of their rankings, Duckworth, actually I believe it is Samari Math. No, it's Duckworth at 51. It tripped me up. Like, I'll give you an example of the composite rankings, what I always am annoyed by. 24/7 Sports has Samari Matthews ranked as the 119th best player.
Yep.
The composite with all the rankings has been at 57.
Okay.
Landon Duckworth on 24/7 Sports composite, so again, all the rankings, checks in at number 50 on that list, or excuse me, 51. And my point on that is saying, like, yeah, I see where you would go maybe with the highest rated player. I can also see where you might look at the defensive back and go, hey, we got to keep these guys flowing in here. And then Tamarion Watkins also. But if we go by what we have our poll question out right now, again, it is Landon Duckworth now with 54.8% of the vote. Safety linebacker Tamarion Watkins at 28.6 and Samari Matthews at 16.7.
Yeah, and again, those are all areas of need based on kind of how we're projecting everything out to be right now. And, you know, you would hope you land all three of those guys to where they're all the right answer.
You need to, right?
You need to. Again, the law of averages say that maybe you get 2 out of 3 or hopefully 3 out of 3, but we'll certainly see. And, again, those are battles against really, really good programs that, you know, it's going to be a feather in the cap if you're able to land those guys with their commitments here coming up the next couple of weeks.
Also today, we have discussed the Pro Football Focus top 50 players. Dylan Stewart on there. If you want to say, hey, he's a little too high at number 9, okay, I wouldn't go past 20, but sure, number 9. Maybe the surprise of it was that Lenora Sellers is not on that Pro Football Focus top 50 at all. KT from Lexington weighs in. Cade Klubnik was at number 7, and he says, what has Klubnik done to get such high praises? He looks just above average to me.
I think it was the jump from year 1 to year 2 as a starter. In 23, I agree with you. He was very shaky, and we talked about it a lot, that he didn't look like, you know, the quarterbacks that Clemson had in years past. But last year, his numbers improved mightily. He seemed to have better control, cut down on his turnovers, just looked like a more well-rounded quarterback. And the expectation is that he's going to be even better in year number 3, again, with a high complement of guys around him, especially in that receiving room. So I think you see that progression from his time in college so far. I think that is why he's so highly touted and thought of to be one of the better quarterbacks in this year's upcoming class.
We'll get into more football talk in the next hour, but also the Braves. Most losses before the All-Star break since 2016, Tyler. And some people out there are going, maybe we just blow this whole thing up. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about it.
It's an idea.
Yeah, it's an idea. We'll talk about that. Also, Rasul Faison. We getting an announcement this week? And we'll tell you all about that. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Dr. Ed Bird. It's the Halftime Show. 2 o'clock, final hour of the halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. We've deemed him Doctor in hour number 2. Today we'll call him, in hour 3, we'll call him Lieutenant Ed Bird. You go with that? You got both your legs back there, Lieutenant?
That'll work.
Okay. All right. Lieutenant Ed Bird producing for us today. Captain David Ayer will be back later on in the week. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on anything you've heard from today. We do have 2 poll questions out there for you. One, sports-related. We'll try and do this each and every day. We'll have a sports-related question. And today's sports-related question, go to Will Gunner, at Will, W-I-L-G-U-N-T-E-R, or go to @Tyler Head. 18 is how you can do that. And you can check out the first one, Sporty Sports. Big recruiting weeks. We were just talking about this coming up for South Carolina. Big 2 weeks. 3 guys we know in particular that South Carolina's got a chance to land. They would be considered the leader. Tamarion Watkins, safety linebacker out of Northwestern. Samari Matthews out of Huff High School in Cornelius, North Carolina, just right there in the Charlotte area. And then Landon Duckworth, the quarterback. We've got that poll question out. You can go and vote on that, or you can text in. Our question is, who of those 3, and they're all big 3. Tyler and I just agree. The previous segment just talked about it. Of those 3, who's the most important to land over the next 2 weeks? South Carolina needs to truthfully land all 3. You got to continue to build talent, and that's what they've been able to do when they were at their best. You got to continue to do it. So you can go to Twitter and you can vote on that. Also, our new segment each and every Monday, Heads or Tails. Tyler will give 3 things that he's very happy with. Heads. 3 things not so happy with. One of the tails that he gave earlier, fireworks. He is becoming quite the old man. He screamed at all of y'all earlier. He said, get off my lawn and stop shooting your bleeping fireworks after the 4th of July.
After the 4th of July. We got to draw the line in the sand somewhere. I don't mind if you want to go all night on the 4th. Okay, that's fine. But afterwards, we're all adults here. We got to get back to reality.
So, again, you can go to our Twitter account, or go to my Twitter account, but Tyler's tagged on there, at Will, W-I-L, Gunter, G-U-N-T-E-R. He's at Tyler Head. 18 is where you can do it. How many days after July 4th should you be shooting off fireworks? 1 extra day to get rid of the excessive leftovers. 2 extra days if the 4th falls on a Friday. You stop on Friday. You stop on the 4th, and if you fire one off, you are tied to the firework. Right now, leading the way, 50% of the vote says get it out, stop on the 4th.
I'm right there with you.
39.3% goes with 1 extra day, and 10.7% goes with 2 extra days. So those are the polls we have out right now. You can go to Twitter, and you can locate those and vote on them if you want to weigh in. Also, Tyler went into Joey Chestnut, and your belief, when we talk about greatest champions of all time, maybe we got to circle back to this.
Yeah, 17 titles.
So is that more Boston Celtics? And I just thought of this. So I don't even know the number, so I'm just going to throw it. Is that more Boston Celtics, or is that more Lance Armstrong?
Ooh. How many?
I don't know. That's why I say it came to me.
Well, and now those are kind of void anyway because of the doping thing.
How do we not know? One day we're going to look back and it's going to turn out that it was PEDs of some sort. I don't know. Some of you doctors out there are smarter than me. PEDs of some sort that explains Joey Chestnut being able to digest 70.5 hot dogs in 10 minutes. I said the way I just said that is the first time I've ever said it out loud, and I just now got sick to my stomach.
Well, you always see, if you watch the end of it when they interview him afterwards, he's always drinking a bottle of Pepto-Bismol.
Oh.
I can't imagine what that stomach ache is like. But yeah, so Yankees have 27 World Series. Canadians have 23 Stanley Cups. The Celtics have 18 NBA Finals. And Joey Chestnut has 17 mustard yellow belts. So I think we got to talk about him in the pantheon of great sports accomplishments.
We might have to circle back to this later on in the week and look back at where do we rank Joey Chestnut in all-time winners history? Where does he get to fall on the Mount Rushmore of all-time winners?
Just saying, he's up there for me.
Okay, all right, big weekend for him. 70.5 hot dogs. I'd love to know what he's doing today.
Does not much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he just laying around today? Like now he's kind of his significant other's having to.
Because we mentioned he has an engineering job. You think he coincides with holiday? You know what? I'm gonna take the next week off after eating 70 hot dogs.
I would think that would be the way to do it.
Or maybe he woke up this morning hungry. I don't know.
Also, that'd be an issue. So that was part of Heads or Tails. That was a heads for
yes.
Tyler. Very pleased with his performance.
Yes, good to see him back where he belongs.
Also, last night, I need to know, because we'll have Tony, I believe we'll have Tony Annan in later this week. Did you get into at all the soccer last night, USA and Mexico?
Yeah, a little bit. I keep an eye on it. I'm not the world's most efficient when it comes to soccer, but I keep tabs on it.
if you didn't see it, Mexico rallies and wins 2-1. The Americans at about the beginning of June, they were getting smashed all over the field. The whole thing was completely discombobulated. There was chaos. People were starting to look at the American team like, hey, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but we're set to host the World Cup next year. Do you think you can get your stuff together so you don't embarrass us? Good performance from them. We'll see where it goes. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't know that was coming on until I got on the couch yesterday afternoon after the race, actually.
Sure.
And both the race and the golf yesterday. But got on the couch. I was like, oh, okay. I'll fix my dinner and have that ready to go as I watched. Fun match to watch. And we talked a little bit about rivalries. That's a USA-Mexico is quite the rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, they were not happy with each other. Physical play, but last night Mexico wins the Gold Cup 2-1 in that as well. So a lot going on. We'll get into some more football talk. One of the other things we've discussed today, Tyler, speaking of rivalries, which Joey Chestnut has no rivals.
No, not this time.
What was the other guy?
That was Kobayashi. Back in the day.
What happened to him? Did he just eat too much and realize, hey, I got to step away from the sport?
There was some kind of controversy with him that led to him leaving the contest. I forget what the story. There's a 30 for 30 on those two.
Oh boy!
By the way, if you ever want to check that out. But there was some controversy with him. I think they did a competition last year on Labor Day. I want to say they went against each other.
I do think it was a Netflix special.
Yeah, it was a Netflix
something?
special.
Yeah.
I think that was last year. So he's still around, but just not in the hot dog contest anymore.
Thank you to my buddy Jim, who has texted in. David Foster. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
You ready for this? Okay.
Sure.
This is what we get sometimes. The wood chopping champion for the most professional titles, David Foster, holds the record of 1,000 titles in professional wood chopping.
Top of the list.
Powerlifting. I don't know if this is, let's see, it doesn't tell me if this is men's or female, but I can tell by the name. The overall champion, 36 world champion titles in powerlifting, and its sub-events goes to Anna Carilla.
Second on the list.
Motorcycle trials. Tony Bowe, I don't know how to read this name, has won 32 world championship motorcycle trial championships, 16 indoor and 16 outdoor.
Okay, we're adjusting our top 5 as we speak.
And the Guinness World Records, the person who has held the most world records, doesn't tell me what the records were, just that they hold the most Guinness World Records. Ashrita Furman holds the record for the most Guinness World Records with over 200 currently held.
I think Joey Chestnut actually held that title for a while of most world records, considering all the eating feats he's had.
Okay, so they're just throwing some others to put in the pantheon of great champions of all time.
Yeah, so there we go.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. We'll come back, get back into some football. Maybe a big announcement on Wednesday?
Maybe.
And it's Gamecock related. And no, it's not about a video game. We'll tell you about it. Well, it could be about a video game, actually. It could be. We'll come back and we'll tell you what the big announcement on Wednesday could be. You're listening to the early game. And you're not. You're listening to the halftime show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family at Mid-State Roofing, they've been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And one of the reasons for that, well, it's because of the way they treat their customers. Whether you're here in Columbia, maybe you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, Greenville, or Charleston, Mid-State Roofing has you covered. And not only that, they have you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Let's be honest. Leaks aren't real aware of what time it is. It can happen at any time. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mid-State Roofing is ready to take your phone call. If you call after hours, you'll speak with an on-call technician. During hours, a Mid-State Roofing employee. So don't wait around. Give them a phone call today, 803-356-1919. Again, that is the way you can reach out to Mid-State Roofing 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are on call. And again, that's why they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry for nearly 30 years. So give them a phone call. Again, that's 803-356-1919. $1:14. I'm so not accustomed. $2:14. I'm so accustomed. So to my right, on my right, the way the clock shows is military time, 14:14, and now 20 seconds. And so, for 9 years, and I don't even know how many times. Well, I'd venture off occasionally to do the 3 to 6 or 4 to 7 back then. But so when I'm here in the mornings, 6, 7,
it's all the same.
8, or So far I've been trying to read this, and I'm realizing my time reading skills have really diminished over the last 9 years. I used to be decent at this, and now I'm like 4:14, 14:14. I'm like, what? 2, 1, 3. Okay, got it. So
yeah, I've gotten pretty used to military time doing this type of job for 7 years now.
Yeah, and you've been with us now for 4?
Almost 3.
3?
It'll be
Almost
3 coming up in December.
Well, again, we are kicking off a brand new era of the halftime show. We look forward to being with you each and every day, except for the days I take vacation, to which then Tyler is stuck without me, unless we try and coordinate vacations. Then we'll put it on somebody else.
I've used up mine until December for now.
Okay.
So I won't be going anywhere anytime soon.
I got a couple more days left, and we'll get those out of the way. But we look forward to joining you each and every afternoon again. Some of the same people that you've heard on the morning show: Jamie Bradford, J.C. Sherbert, Brian Edwards of Vegas Insider will be joining us. Tony Annan is supposed to appear this week. Perry Orth will be joining us. So we'd like to get other voices in here, and then Tyler will grill them and question them and wonder what the heck they're talking about. But we'll have a really good time with that. Again, I look forward to introducing Tyler to Dave Bartu, who lives out on the West Coast, so can never get him on the morning show. That didn't. West Coast people from...
He doesn't want to wake up at 5:30 to talk to you guys?
Oh, that would be the final segment of the show then. And, he didn't 3 to 6. But Dave Bartu, if you never read his stuff, really good, very, very, very analytical in what he puts out there. And we'll definitely have him on in the near future because he does a heck of a job. Anyway, speaking of football... This is, I don't know what your opinions, I don't know what you said on your shows, Tyler, as it pertains to the Rasul Faison situation and what the NCAA may be or may not be trying to do, how they're, Preston and I would laugh about this. Like, what did it take for them to look over and be like, oh, here's a folder that we haven't touched yet. Maybe we should look into this one.
It's definitely bizarre because, again, it sounds like from what Coach Beamer has said numerous times, they've sent everything that's been asked of them. Is the paperwork at the bottom of a big pile? Is it in a closet somewhere that they can't find? Maybe what's the deal?
Maybe that person had more vacation days than I.
Maybe they did.
And they'd just be like, hey, we'll see you again in August.
Yeah. Again, you kind of think, and especially because the only reason Faison entered the portal and came here is because after the Pavia ruling, he assumed, I can get an extra year of eligibility. And his story's weird because he's been at like a bunch of different schools, didn't play football at all of them. So from a football standpoint, it would make sense for him to get at least one more year, especially if JUCO doesn't count against him. But here we are, 55 days to kickoff, and still don't have an answer, unfortunately.
I will just say I spoke with someone in the month of June, and their feeling was that the NCAA is trying to shove this off as long as possible towards the start of the season, so that if they deny him, or when they deny him, as one person told me, when they deny him, that really he wouldn't be able to appeal the situation. It made sense, and it's also the underhandedness of what the NCAA can try and do. Sure,
and I'm kind of leaning towards it being a denial at this point in time, because why would it go this long if it was something you're going to approve anyway? And as nefarious as the NCAA can be, it would not put it past them to try and drag something out so long to where there can't be an appeals process, after that. And somebody for Gamecock Central, I think it might have been Kevin Miller, was writing the other day about, Faison looking into the supplemental draft of the NFL, saying, hey, if I can't get into college football this year, I might have a chance to jump on to an NFL roster at the last minute and try and make a team in that way. So, and you went out and got Isaiah Auguste from Colorado a couple weeks back. So they're putting contingency plans in place in case this does not happen. And we'll see if on Wednesday we get something. Maybe, maybe not.
That is, I guess, the word from Scott Hamilton of the Charlotte Observer, who has
Post Courier.
Okay, I think he also, maybe they picked up his article too.
They may have.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Got to admit, I have not paid attention to what all the different corporations are now that run. But I saw it. I feel like I saw it in the Charlotte Observer, but I could be wrong. But with that being said, Scott Hamilton's putting it out there, and yeah, he alluded to maybe an announcement from the NCAA on the 9th.
So we have Scott Hamilton, or have had him on the show a lot with me and Terry. He fills in sometimes too. And I asked him, because I read the article and his wording was kind of weird. And I asked him what exactly he meant by that. Is there going to be a decision on the 9th or not? And he said, according to an email, that they told him on that initially there was going to be a decision on July 9th. They then circled back and said, well, we'll see. So it was like, yes, we think so. Now we're maybe not so sure. So there's an idea that a decision could come down on Wednesday, but it's not 100% certain at this point in time.
And the thing about this is what are you I would love to know, and we're probably not going to get this, but a deep dive into what they looked at to determine his eligibility. It's pretty simple, right?
You would think.
I mean, I get it. His first 2 years of college are a little, if you don't know, they're a little jumbled. He went to a junior college. He didn't play. Went to another university. I think he only played about 2 or 3 games. Technically qualified for the redshirt rule. This would be his 6th year.
Yes.
And so my point on that is, yeah, then if you go by the clock of enrolling and then getting out of the situation, yes, I can see where it gets a little bit dicey in that situation, but he didn't play in any games, and technically he left before the semester was over.
He started his college clock in 2019, he did not actually start playing football in college until 2022 at JUCO, and then 2 years at Utah State for transferring here. So, yeah, 19, 20, and 21 did not play any football, and, in fact, was actually on a team at Lackawanna College.
Yep.
I don't even think they had a football team. So he was not even on that team. So, again, it's a weird situation, but from a on-field standpoint, he has played 3 seasons, and one of those was at JUCO.
You're so young. Lackawanna College. Do you know where it's at? If you weren't looking at it, where you'd know where it's at?
Yes, because of The Office.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wasn't that in Scranton?
Scranton, but Lackawanna County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lackawanna College, to take you, many of you back that are closer to my age, 43, was the home of the one and only, the well-known recruit that never got in, Clarence Bailey.
Okay.
I believe Clarence Bailey was about 20 years ago. I believe he would have played with Preston had he been enrolled in college. And a situation similar to this happened. He was a big-time offensive tackle. He was almost, as soon as he committed during the recruiting process in January, he was instantly being promoted as the very next guy to protect whichever quarterback. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was at that point then going to be Blake Mitchell.
Okay.
But Clarence Bailey never could get could never actually get into the University of South Carolina.
Okay.
Therefore, I became very knowledgeable of Lackawanna College, their credits. Now, this was, again, about 20 years ago, so you're looking it up. Did you gain anything from this?
So they still have a football team.
Yeah.
And this is per his Gamecocks Online bio, but Faison was an online student at this school. So he likely wasn't even in the same state as Lackawanna College. So he did not play on their football team, which, again, shouldn't have counted against his eligibility. But they do have a team. He was just not on it. So,
yeah, but anyway, South Carolina, you have to have depth. You have to have, and I don't just mean South Carolina, but I think anybody that's going to be competitive at the highest level has to have depth. And South Carolina, as you mentioned, is trying to take advantage of maybe some generational players in Dylan Stewart and also in Lenora Sellers. And in this situation with Rasul Faison, you really are unsure. If there's a position on this team that I think is your biggest concern,
sure,
it's running back.
Well, and Faison at Utah State was a true RB1, took bulk of the carries, was that primary back for them, and if he is granted his eligibility, he'll be that guy for South Carolina more likely than not. But if you lose him, then okay, who are you really kind of turning the reins over to? Or is it back by committee? Because you had guys like Auguste, who was the primary back at Colorado, but didn't get a ton of carries because of how bad their offensive line was, and most of the offense was done and running by Shedeur Sanders. Oscar Attaway did not get a bulk of the carries when he was at North Texas, but does have experience. Then you obviously have guys like Jordan Howell and Matthew Fuller who are still coming along and developing that can play roles but aren't expected to be feature backs, at least not at this point in time. So how you go about this, whether Faison is eligible or not, it drastically changes your running back room one way or the other. And again, you're putting in these contingency plans and having to plan for it. And you know, obviously if they can make a decision one way, that's my thing to me is like, I just want to know. Right. If you're going to deny him, say so we can at least start putting in things in place to know that we're going to be playing without him. Don't keep stringing us along where we get into camp next month. And it's like, okay, well, we still don't know, but we need to get these other guys more reps because they might have to play instead of him.
No, that's a great point that I think people tend to overlook or maybe just focus on the kid himself or, trust me, I've told this joke, and it's not really a joke. If Rasul Faison is indeed cleared, South Carolina may have the oldest running back room in the country.
Yeah,
and I don't mean college football also. Yeah. Faison is now, I believe I've got this right. I can't remember. Yeah, I wasn't looking it up, but Faison, I believe, is 25 now. Oscar Attaway will be 25 in November.
Yes, that's correct.
That would be competitive with some NFL running back rooms in terms of average age of who's there. Just for those two, by the way, because then you throw in Matthew Fuller, who's a redshirt sophomore, and Jarwan House, who's in his third year. By the way, just to come back to this point, it is why I'm accepting of bowl games and why I was not, the one thing, aside from losing, was not pleased about in that Citrus Bowl, it looked like Jarwan Howe was getting things going. I believe, without looking right now, it's 6 carries, 32 yards, and then he has the fumble, and you never saw him again.
Yeah.
And you had that's what you've got to use those games for. And I'll take it a step further. Had South Carolina qualified for a bowl in 2023, I said at the time, and I know some people got upset, I was like, you thank Spencer Rattler for everything he's done?
Sure.
You remove his key card, you say, I'm sorry, we're looking out for you. Go to the NFL draft. We're looking at our future as a 6-6 team, and we're going to give Lenora Sellers one start.
Yeah, outside of playing in the college ball playoff, a lot of those are really kind of serve as your spring games now, where you kind of start getting an idea of what your roster is going to be next year, assuming you hang on to most of those guys, after the fact. But yeah, I think we saw spurts of what Jawarn Howell can be. And again, when he came in a year ago from SC State, the anticipation was it was going to be a development process that, okay, maybe years 2 and 3 are when he really comes in and contributes. But the times he got touches last year, you did see some flashes of things. Unfortunately, that fumble ended his stuff in the bowl game. But, hey, if Rasul Faison can't play, guess what? You're going to have an opportunity to get some more playing time this year and prove what you got.
Well, my point on that, though, is, I wish they would have played him in the bowl game more. I mean, certainly, look, he had a turnover problem.
Yes.
Jawarn Howell did last year. And maybe they coached him to the point they were like, hey, stop doing this, and he continues to do it. And they're like, all right, that's it. Go sit back on the bench and think about what you did for three more quarters. But that was your opportunity right there to work on your running back room. And I know they missed on some guys. They checked out Justice Haynes, who ended up going to Michigan, the Alabama transfer. But to me, Tyler, that was your opportunity right there to develop your running back room. We'll see what happens with Rasul Faison. You mentioned it. They bring in the other running back from Colorado who was going to go to Virginia and the credits didn't line up with what Virginia wanted. That's going to be the question, and you hate to have that particular position, which for whatever reason, by the way, we talked a lot of recruiting today. For whatever reason, South Carolina's recruited great at a couple different positions. You look at quarterback and what they've been able to bring in. You look at offensive line has been phenomenal. The defensive secondary has been good. It looks like they've increased the running back recruiting. The edge position has been good. For whatever reason, this staff has struggled to bring in a elite running back, despite a little bit of the South Carolina history of having really good running backs, and despite the fact that you had a Rocket Sanders come in and say, hey, I can do this. I'll make it look good.
Yeah, and Rocket Sanders really, because, again, people were kind of down on him coming out of his injury year at Arkansas, earned himself enough good graces to get the opportunity to obviously play at the NFL level now. So I feel like that's inviting. Again, if you're a high-level guy coming in here, you were going to be a starter, transferring in. But, for whatever reason, the past couple of years has not been the best when it comes to building up that running back room. And, again, we'll see how well whatever group of guys can be playing this year ends up being and how they factor in the offense. But you certainly feel pretty good if Faison got his eligibility granted, but right now that again, I'm not feeling the greatest about that.
We'll learn more probably during the show. By the way, I'll have to get accustomed to that breaking news during the show, but we'll probably learn more on Wednesday. When we come back, the Braves. Dun, dun, dun. That's not good. And now, one MLB Network analyst is suggesting a major change. We'll let you hear what he is talking about and what we think when we come back. You're listening to the early game. No.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. I think we've added $4 to the jar today for Bill's first time. It's all right.
I'm just glad you aren't. I haven't confused you and made you think. Wait, do I have to do another show after this? Is it only 8:30?
Listen, as somebody that hosts 4 different shows on this station every single day, I screw up names constantly, so I can forgive you for that one. It's okay.
We'll get the hang of it. Speaking of screwing up with the Braves, well, number one, the Braves are screwing up. All right, let's be perfectly clear about that.
It's been a problem for a while now.
Bad year or organization in decline?
Man. I don't think it's in decline. I just think your window for winning a championship is closed, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, and if you're not, that, to me, that I hate to say it like this, if you're saying that, to me, that's...
Which you did win a championship, so accomplish that goal, obviously, but I kind of look at where things stand as of right now, and it's not giving me that optimism. And then winning the season with one of the best odds to win the entire thing. And yes, you've had injuries and all that kind of stuff, but it just seems like, especially for the past couple of years, winning, around 100 games, winning the NL East, like you just have not been able to make that kind of deep playoff run again. And I don't know what you need to do to fix it, but it's a recurring problem.
I would assume when you say what do they need to do to fix it, a lot of Braves fans, I assume, would say keep guys healthy.
Sure.
Keep guys healthy. But I mean, you think about all the injuries that they've had, and let's start with this, and we'll get to Ronald Acuna Jr. here in just a second, but let's start with this. Over the weekend, you and I were texting, and you've got Spencer Schwallenbach, who now has a broken elbow?
I think no, Sale has ribs. He has the elbow.
But Sale's at least going to made the All-Star team.
Yeah,
I was actually surprised by that.
He's not playing.
Okay, but Schwallenbach, I believe it was yesterday I saw this. It could have been Saturday. Days are running together coming off a big weekend like that. But I believe it was yesterday that they officially moved Schwallenbach to the 60-day IR.
Yes, that's correct. Up in the air if he's going to come back or not. Because, again, talking about elbows, talking about throwing, that's a big issue. Sale up in the air about coming back as well. So 2 of your better pitchers. Again, there's not been a lot of bright spots on this team this year, but those guys, when they've gone out there and performed well, have done a really good job.
Well, you thought you would be able to have those guys have the years that they would have.
Sure.
At worst average years. And then at least going in, you thought, all right, and if we can get Spencer Strider back by mid-April, or excuse me, by mid-May at the worst, all right, we will be good. I think the original timeline was probably the end of April, but you're thinking, hey, by mid-May, our trio of Sale, Schwallenbach, and was it Grant Holmes? Well, I'm
Grant Holmes.
Yeah. You're like, we feel pretty good here. We feel pretty good about what we're rolling with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a solid core of guys. It's just, again, that injury bug has riddled you this entire season. It's been your bullpen and obviously affecting your starters now to where, again, you kind of look at the halfway point of the season and you say, where can you really go from here? I really don't know.
So now sitting at 39 and 50. 39 and 50. And as I mentioned, saw this yesterday, now the most losses prior to the All-Star break since 2016. That's why I asked. And because, look, injuries again last year. You lost Ronald Acuna last year.
Sure.
Injuries last year. But is this now setting up to be an organization, as you said, you probably are right, that has missed their window for the champion, for a World Series title?
Well, and I mean, they did win a title, so it's not like they didn't capitalize at all. But, in terms of getting back there again, playing for another World Series, it seems like that's further in the rearview mirror than it is, right there ahead of you. And again, it's not just the pitching and the injuries. Your offense is dead. I mean, your bottom half of the lineup can't hit to save their lives. I pulled the numbers last night, and I'm going to read to you off the typical, 5 through 9 in batting averages in the last 30 days. 168, 196, 194, 161.
Yeah.
That's not going to get it done for the bottom of your lineup.
No, and this has been a problem really all year long. I didn't write this down because I didn't think I'd be bringing it back up, but I think it was a tweet. Actually, it was a tweet that came out from Barrett Salih, I believe, over the weekend, and it said, I think it was over the weekend. I'll go back and find it real quick because I didn't think we'd be discussing this part of it, talking about their offense, but the fact that for about 7 straight games, they didn't have a run that didn't come from a home run.
Yeah, no, they're having trouble cashing in when they put runners on. And, we talked about starting pitchers and Spencer Strider, who does seem to kind of be rounding into form a little bit. Here's his last 2 outings. A couple weeks ago against the Phillies, 7 innings, innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. Solid outing, right? lose that game 2-1. Friday night against the Orioles, 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, only 2 earned runs or 3 earned runs allowed, and 6 strikeouts. Another pretty decent outing. Lose that game 3-2. You're not getting the run support even when your pitchers are going out there and having strong performances. You're getting guys on. You just can't seem to drive them in when you have them on base.
Yeah, and to that point, the Braves third in all of baseball.
Yeah.
In strikeouts. Astros and Phillies lead the way at 871 and 832. Braves have 819 strikeouts on the year. I'm
forgetting which game it was now. Maybe it was one of the games against the Angels last week. I want to say it was Olsen that got a leadoff triple in one of the innings, and they couldn't get him in.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a microcosm for what this season's been. You just cannot drive runners in unless you're hitting the ball over the fence, which, again, you're not going to win enough in baseball doing that.
So injuries, not hitting. Joel Sherman of the Major League Baseball Network, well, maybe he went outside of the box. He proposes the Braves could trade Ronald Acuna Jr. Here's what he had to say.
Should they trade Acuna right now, right? Here would be my argument to the Atlanta Brave front office on why it would be valuable to do this right now. Can you look at this team, which I think has almost zero chance to get to the playoffs now, down 4 key starting pitchers. Their offense, Albies has gone the wrong way. Harris has gone the wrong way. You have no idea the money you're spending on Profar, what you have.
Right.
So this might be a lost year. Can you see a championship in the next few years? I don't, because Albies has gone the wrong way. Harris has gone the wrong way. Sale will be 37 next year. You don't have depth in your farm system. This has been a great period for us, the Braves. 7 straight years in the playoffs, 6 division titles, 1 championship, big deal. By the way, we won that championship without Acuna.
Right.
He got hurt. We played the last 4 months of last season without Acuna and made the playoffs again. By the way, we have a better record this year without Acuna at the beginning of the season than with Acuna. At some point, I would say he's got 3 years at $51 million left. He's had serious knee injuries to both knees. I feel like we have to talk seriously about, hey, if we just trade Raciel Iglesias and Ozuna, the free agent guys at the end, we're not getting anything back that changes our future.
Right.
Do we want to try to take another 7-year run?
So that is Joel Sherman on the Major League Baseball Network, and I tell you what, I had not listened prior. I think he's actually got. I didn't want to listen until I got here because I didn't want to have an informed opinion when I wanted to be able to hear his opinion.
Sure.
You and I sent you a text yesterday when you said it. I was like, what is he talking about? And I was like, let me wait till I get there so I get the honest reaction and not a preconceived notion.
And I think a lot of people have your same reaction when you first hear, like, well, there's no way he convinced me of this, but he brings up solid points. And again, you've had a lot of success when he's been injured and out of the lineup in the past couple years, and he has a relatively team-friendly deal, all things considered, where you're not paying him an absorbent amount of money for the years that he has left on his contract. But man, when he is healthy, he does play like one of the best players in all of baseball. He came back only a little over a month ago and played well enough to get himself in the All-Star game. That speaks volumes to how good Ronald Acuna Jr. is. And, man, you want to talk about a fan revolt? If they were to have traded him, like, here in the next couple weeks, you're going to have a very upset fan base.
I agree, but I'll also, again, say what surprised me about that comment is the way he laid that out about their schedule. It coincides with what you just said, where you kind of think that maybe their window has closed on winning championships. It's like I always say, and my Miami Heat are currently doing this.
Yeah,
they're in sports purgatory. They're in fan purgatory. You're not good enough to win.
Sure. You're
not bad enough to fall down and blow everything up. It's kind of like, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
Do we blow it up or do we?
Yeah.
By the way, Heat need to blow it up.
Yeah, you're existing in that unhappy medium, I guess. In between the high and the low. And I don't know. Can you make moves at the trade deadline and spark something in the second half of the year? Possibly. I just don't know if they'd give serious consideration making this kind of move with Acuna. Though, again, he'd be a hot commodity. You would be able to get a good bit for him if that were the case. How much that affects you in the long term, considering how good he is when he is healthy, I don't know. It's definitely a food for thought kind of thing and going through Braves Twitter when this came out the other day, people had some visceral reactions. They were very upset about this, but like you said, he does bring up valid points, and I could see why that's something that could at least be entertained.
Well, to close out on this, this is why the front office guys get the big money.
Yes.
And when things go south, they get the pink slip. Because
exactly.
This is a huge. You can't look at this as, well, what's the end of 2025 for us? And I don't even know if you can look at it from a standpoint of what is 2026 for us. You've got to look years down the road and go, can we upgrade our program, our organization?
And as he mentioned there, you have guys like Albies and Michael Harris Jr. or Mike Harris II that you think are going to be kind of those, guys just below Acuna in terms of productivity that just aren't playing good right now. So what does that mean for them going forward? Is that an issue with just this season, or is that going to be a consistent problem going forward? Because that's what your team is expected to be built around. And again, when Acuna's healthy, plays like one of the best guys in all of baseball, but these other guys are unknown. So what do you do with that? Again, like you said, those guys get paid the big bucks to figure these things out. And we just have to sit back and watch and hope for the best.
803-404-6100. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Dr. Ed Bird, honorary. He's lieutenant this hour. I forgot he's lieutenant. He switched over. He's like Halloween on July the 7th. 803-404-6100. You're listening to, yes, the halftime show this time. The halftime show.
Welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Head and Bill Gunter along with you. Wrapping up our first show together here on your Monday. We'll turn things over to Jay and Terry for their first post-game show together. Coming up from 3 until 6. They worked together for a couple years. They're pretty used to each other, so kind of know what to expect with that one.
Two faces made for radio, by the way.
Exactly.
You and I can't say that. We're good-looking guys here. A couple of good-looking, wild and crazy guys. Those two, yeah.
The quality diminishes as soon as we leave the studio.
Yeah.
This obviously is a week we're getting used to all these changes. Dave will typically be with us from 12 to 3, as you hear in the intro. He's filling in for Jen this week, who is out in Chicago once again for the Chicago Street Race, which happened yesterday. Fortunately for her, I was texting back and forth for her yesterday, stayed dry the entire time because for once the race did not get impacted by rain.
Was about to.
It was about to.
And we'll get it. You're going to get into this. Yeah. I wonder if some of the guys would have preferred rain to how the race ended.
Yeah. There's actually controversy, and I hate to say that I knew this was going to happen. Where NASCAR's been in position plenty of times where they could potentially extend a race, but choose not to for fear of weather or whatever it may be. Because Cody Ware had a nasty, wreck into the turn 6 tire barriers. He was deep into that thing.
Yeah.
And NASCAR held the caution flag until SVG had taken the white, which ended the race at that point. Instead of re-racking and wasting another, 5 to 10 minutes while the rain was coming. They're getting a lot of blowback for that because that was a very dangerous situation, and rightfully so. But again, I've watched it long enough to know I could tell what was happening because you could see he was buried firewall deep in the thing. I'm like, they're waiting until the white flag. Then they'll throw the caution because they don't want this race to extend any longer and have the rain come in and have to deal with all that kind of stuff. So they escaped by the skin of their teeth when it came to avoiding the rain for the first time in Chicago.
And if I remember correctly, now I will admit, I text Jen on, I think, Thursday, maybe Friday, I can't remember, maybe Wednesday, whatever day. And I said, well, who did Tyler take? And Alex Bowman, who finished 8th.
Yes.
And initially I changed it. Initially I went to Tyler Reddick.
Okay.
Who would have been I don't know who everybody else. Were you doing the show? Do you remember? Who took whom?
I want to say Preston actually took SVG.
Okay.
I think Josh Harris took Ty Gibbs.
Okay.
I can't remember who Jen took, and I don't remember who Reggie took either. I think Reggie may have taken Christopher Bell.
Okay, that would be good for us.
Remember correctly.
We're in this. You and I are in this together. You got to remember.
Well, and I didn't know I was picking for you until they're like, "Oh, we don't have Bill's pick." I'm like, "Okay, Alex Bowman, sure, he won the race last year."
Yeah, I texted her earlier, and she said, "Well, you can change it." And I initially texted her and said Tyler Reddick, and then I thought, no, I mean, I hadn't done any research. The only thing I knew was Tyler Reddick's good on road courses.
Sure.
So I don't want to say I was pulling for Tyler Reddick at the end, but I was kind of like, I had very mixed emotions because I switched to Reddick, but we stayed with Bowman. As long as Reggie, I'm not worried about anybody else. Josh Harris was kind of close to us. I don't know if you actually saw the sheet. We're going for a third championship in the course of this history.
Yes, absolutely. I know Preston's pretty far behind.
Jen's far behind,
kind of in the middle there. So, you guys are kind of the top dogs there fighting for this thing.
Yeah, the 6 years we've done it, Reggie has won 3. Unbelievable. I think he's won back-to-back, and he might have won 3 straight.
I was here when he did his victory lap a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That was funny.
We'll have Reggie on some. We'll have our own NASCAR segment and move forward with that. But, we got to win this because we got to tie up Reggie at 3-3, and then Kerry Tharp's got one as well. This would be our 7th season. Kerry Tharp's got one as well.
Doesn't Reggie's kids make his picks most of the time?
That happened about 2 years ago. He was way back on the list, and I was kind of dominating. I was rolling along. I was already I was already starting to buy champagne bottles.
Yeah.
And about midsummer, Reggie went on an absolute heater. I think he picked the winner like 4 times in 8 races.
Sure.
And just roared back and beat me. And so, but we're gonna catch him. You and I are gonna catch him. We just got to get ready. They're back on the track this weekend. But your thoughts on the controversy there and what you do in that situation?
Yeah. Again, NASCAR always errs on the side of safety, and their reasoning was they didn't have eyes on the incident well enough to assess it. Which, if that's your situation, you should not be running the race then, because you should have eyes everywhere, especially on a course as small as that one is. Again, I think that was them. And again, I've seen them make a lot of controversial decisions over the years. I knew what they were doing. Fortunately, Cody Ware didn't get hurt in that, and he walked away okay. But you can't play those kind of games because, again, this is a serious situation, especially if you see the fan video of how fast he went into that thing. It was insane. But I don't think it changes the outcome of the race. I think SVG wins anyway because he was just so dominant yesterday. But they are rightfully getting a lot of blowback for that happening yesterday.
So a wild race yesterday, and entertaining though. But SVG proving, I mean, that's back-to-back for him.
Yeah,
is it back-to-back or 2 and 3
2
years?
out of 3. So last year he had a mechanical problem while leading. But
that's right.
Yeah, he between the Cup and the Xfinity race, he has run 6 times at Chicago, and he's won 5 of them.
Yeah.
Or 4, he's won 4 out of the 5. Yeah,
He swept this weekend.
He swept this weekend, yes. Yeah. So he is the master of Chicago. I don't know if this race is happening next year. It's a 3-year contract, and the city of Chicago doesn't seem too keen on bringing it back. So we'll see. Hopefully Jen got as much enjoyment out of it as she could, because that may be the last one,
yeah,
at least in Chicago.
I enjoy it, but I don't live in Chicago. I don't let it affect my everyday life, as I've heard from some of the articles up there, as you mentioned. So we will we'll see what happens there. We will be back tomorrow. A lot to get into tomorrow. A lot of fun stuff to discuss, and I would say I'd give you an A. I get about a C++. Only a couple screw ups for me today.
We'll just keep that sign up there so you remember what show it is. I'll bring the jar tomorrow, and we can start putting dollar bills in it every time you mess it up.
Yeah. What we may do tomorrow is you got to text in. You got to say how many times I'll mess up. Then we'll have a drawing at the end.
Okay.
And the winner would get a signed by Tyler Head and Bill Gunner the halftime show T-shirt.
Oh, how valuable is that?
It will be something that you will not want to wear it. You will want to, without a doubt, frame it and put it over your office, over your desk in your office, wherever that is.
I'm sure somebody would.
Or are you going to put it over another throne you might sit on? One of the two. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yep.
Thank you to Lieutenant. He was a doctor. He was a captain. He was a lieutenant today. Thank you to producer Ed Bird. We will be back tomorrow. A lot to get into. Y'all have a great rest of the day.